We are live, slightly more live, I think, than most of our players tonight. And, Sean is with me here to forensically deep dive into what was an absolutely tedious game from start to finish. Sean, thanks for joining. Thoughts?
Rhythm. We've been playing well against teams in a certain way of playing the game. We had that way of playing the game taken away from us. We'll talk about how that was done. And we lost our rhythm. And with our rhythm, we lost our confidence. It can happen in the Premiership, but it's more likely to happen in Europe. Like I said, we'll go into how that happens in a bit. But you've got a feeling that if Man City came across that kind of tactic with that kind of referee, they'd be able to adapt better than we did.
Yeah, I get that. I just thought going into the match, there was a lot of conversation about, do you make changes or do you keep the side? I think when you consider the travelling to Portugal, the fact that it's Saturday evening, we've got to play again. And I thought that reminded me a little bit of the end of the year when we just looked sluggish and tired. Unforgivable number of times that we gave the ball away. And then when he brings Jorginho on and you think, oh, well, at least we'll keep the ball a bit better. And then Jorginho gave it away.
That's all he did.
I know. I mean, that was his greatest contribution. I think going into the match when people were saying, do you make changes or not? Obviously, to a certain degree, there really aren't the changes you can make. I thought Tom Canton on the Guna talks this morning, he made a really good point. He was like, maybe take Martinelli off, have him on the bench, because in every game where he's been sub or he's not started, he's played really well the following game. I thought everyone was largely ineffectual today, but it was disappointing that we weren't able to capitalize on the space that was there. I thought that's probably the poorest I've seen Martinelli in a while.
He gets very excited sometimes, Martinelli, and I think this was one of those nights, and he was perhaps a little bit too up for it, and he lost his control. I wish we could say the same thing for Saka, who had his worst game I remember for a long time. But but there were times when Martinelli looked dangerous, but they were quick. Their acceleration on a player-per-player basis is very, very good. They say the first meters in the head, they were on it all the way through. And then, of course, anytime it didn't work out for them, all they had to do was scream and fall over.
It was a less than impressive performance from the referee. I thought the corners were weird as well, because he kept pulling our players over to talk to us about the fact that their players were basically manhandling us what
they do, they lean, and it happens in open play as well. They lean over so much because they're a lot of them are little guys. There's one or two big ones, but they're mostly little guys, and they lean over so far that if you're not there anymore, they fall over. But then you get blamed for knocking them over. I saw it, countless times. That's the rhythm I'm talking about. When we've had a certain foundation since we came back from Dubai and we play a certain way, we've had that taken away from us. We understood, for example, that you're allowed to kick the ball with your foot. There's an offside rule that someone's not allowed to rake you down the back of these basics. One of those things, if someone leans into you and you walk away and they scream and shout, that the referee's going to ignore them and you can carry on playing. But that was taken away from them. That first foul, which was a foul by Declan Rice, I think it was a harsh card considering it was almost the first beginning of the game. It kind of set the scene a little bit. And after that, you could see it happening. Everyone's confidence was taken away because they didn't have confidence that normal shit that they were used to was actually going to transpire. Like not being given, a foul for someone just falling over. On top of that, some of those Porto players are tricky little bastards. They're technical, they're very, very quick, they're very good at using their body, and of course they are prolific at cheating. which is hand in hand with the use of their body. So they're sitting there pushing us, someone twice their size away. And as soon as it doesn't work out for them, they get the free kick anyway. So your rhythm is completely taken away. Havertz, our duel master, was pulling out of 50-50s because he didn't have a Scooby what the referee was going to make of it if he actually won the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that we have to take some responsibility because there wasn't incisiveness in our play. And I think the match for me was about possessions lost, an unfeasible number of times that we gave the ball away without ball, just our final ball. I mean, literally, if you looked at every single player across the pitch, it was difficult to pick out someone who wasn't, I don't know, it just felt mentally sluggish. It felt like they weren't concentrated properly. And I do worry about the lack of rotation. I know, look, to some degree, I totally appreciate that if you don't have, I know that Partey trained this week but wasn't in the squad. Seeing Fabio Vieira on the bench when he's not coming on, sitting next to Cedric, who, might as well have had a bucket of popcorn there because he's got no chance. I know we don't have the ability to rotate, but we are getting some of our players back, and Emil Smith-Rowe was on the bench the whole game again, and I thought that he would have been a player that might mix it up. I mean, to bring Trossard off,
and the referee was blowing his whistle every 2 minutes. There was a foul. The referee was blowing his whistle. You want people that can run the ball down the middle. They ran the ball down the middle against us and put the willies up pretty nicely.
Yeah, they dominated the middle. I mean, that was one of the most obvious and glaring errors from us. That was the fact that we were trying to find the out balls to the wings more often than not. More than half the time, we were trying to find those balls that they were going out or just weren't going to their man. And Declan Rice was. I think the whole team, to borrow the old Arsenal phrase, were playing with a handbrake on a little bit. There is that expression in Europe, which is if you can't win, don't lose. And I was kind of happy with that right to the very end. And then you think...
Me too. Because they played better than I expected and consistently. And, we didn't manage to pull them out of shape. They did well. That's why we couldn't do the incisive through balls, because we couldn't actually pull their shape apart. They also were...
No, I know very little about Porto. I've seen very little of Porto, but I do know that they're a high pressing side. And today, I think they outfoxed us. I think that we were expecting a different attitude from them. It didn't come. And we've got a first comment. Let's have a look. Declan Rice trebles up on Porto's left winger, late to close and looks like a training mannequin. The press will say bugger all on it though, blatant. Thanks, Stu, for your comment.
It was probably our best player tonight.
Declan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he must have been tired by the end, but let's do mention Jorginho, who's there to put his foot on the ball and keep possession. And twice in that last passage of play, we gave the ball right back to them in our half, and they ended up scoring a wonder goal. Yeah, Rice probably could have got out, but he had been booked. He was struggling to stay on the pitch, and it was a great shot. You could also question Raya's positioning. Who knows? There's lots of ways you can point. Well, I think any of them's harsh. I mean, Jorginho was trying his best to pass out to Saka. It was a terrible pass. And then I think it was one of those ones where you got two people out there. I'm going to put it in that direction. You end up passing to neither of them, kind of thing. But then Declan Rice, could he have got out? Yeah. But he could have faked him. They were a very tricky technical team. They could have been passing him behind and somewhere exposed. Really difficult to say. Really, really difficult to say. The best thing would have been not to have given the ball away twice just before the end.
No, I mean, like I'll say it again, the statistics on us giving the ball away was just, it feels, I don't know, you look at the team and you think it's a young team. We know that they're naive, but I think that they just played far too well with far too much within themselves. Didn't show enough and didn't seem to have any of the confidence we've gotten used to. Yeah, look, I mean, and the comments here are going to be all about. Look, everybody's going to say that we can beat West Ham, we can beat Burnley, we can, and that's the narrative. But when it comes up against a good team, away, we don't do it.
Yeah,
I've got
Porto,
a comment here. Hang on. And for all this English prostitute league money, Arteta has lost to Villarreal, Olympiacos, Sporting, Porto. Terrible waste of coin. Yeah, everyone's going to come at Arteta now, aren't they? Because he's done such a terrible job in, winning the Champions League group and getting us to the last 16 for the first time. I mean, fair enough. You can. I think a lot of this comment to me is tiny bit gibberishy. Got to be honest with you. I'm going to see if this makes it make more sense. 105 million general doesn't do that. He's Rice, not Redondo. You'd think he was a truly gifted and balanced midfielder. Yeah, I rate. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny. I rate Declan Rice. If you don't rate Declan Rice, don't know what you normally watch cricket or something. I have no idea what to say to you. But it is a disappointing performance, and it just kind of, one of the things I was thinking watching it was this kind of shows you why it took Man City so long to win the Champions League, because we just don't get how the European teams play. We don't really,
or our refereed. That's always going to be a problem for England. I live in Spain. Portugal, for me, are the other side of Spain. Football culturally to the UK, where they're even softer, they're even more likely to dive. Have a look at some of the biggest divers in the Premiership, and you'll see a good few Portuguese people popping up there. We need to.
I don't want to do that. I mean, I think that, look, we're going to face that kind of teams will do what they can. Hello, this one. I've got to put this one up there. This will shock you. This, by the way, this brown envelope Romano, guess who this really is? Guess who do we know that likes to nick other people's identities and come on the show? Highly bummer. Arteta out. He's not going anywhere. Keep shouting into the void.
I am going to talk about diving because that's what we saw a lot of.
Listen, you can talk about it. It won't change it. Our problem is we know it's going to happen. It happens. Where I draw the line though is when you're saying, Portuguese players are divers. I mean, I had this years and years with the German players. You can have that opinion. You've stated that opinion. It doesn't stack up for me. This isn't about them diving as much as it is about us not. Look, when they're diving,
it's about both, and you were just about to get onto it there. It's about diving, but it's not just about diving. It's us adapting to the fact that diving culturally is more accepted in the continent than it is in the UK still, even though we've got a bit more diving than we used to.
So, but my point that I was developing was that we weren't passing to each other, and it wasn't because they were falling over. If 52% of our passes are going, if we're giving the ball away that much, then they don't need to dive.
It goes back to my original point that we led off with. When the basis, the foundation of how you've been successful for the last few games feels like it's taken away from you, you lose your rhythm, you lose your confidence, and you start perhaps making a few mistakes. Added to that, they were snapping at our heels rather well. But one thing led to another, and we just weren't ourselves from very, very early on. That was set. We weren't exactly ourselves. I don't expect it. I hope it's not going to be a trend, but they are connected. They are connected. When you expect to be able to go in and nick a ball off someone, all he has to do is scream and fall down, and suddenly you've got a free kick against you. You go, what do I do next time?
I think we had so much of the possession that if we had played better with the ball, then it doesn't matter how much they fall over. I mean, if you take your chance early on, if you take a chance early on, then that, however much they fall over or dive, doesn't make a difference. Ultimately, I'm seeing this game not so much. I've seen far worse gamesmanship from teams, even in the Premier League. And I don't really think that. I think we looked sluggish. I think we looked tired again. And I don't think it was because we weren't going into tackles enough. And I think that if I count the number of times an outball to even Odegaard, who played quite well in parts, when you're giving the ball away as much as we are, then you're not going to build any momentum. If you want to say it's because they were falling over a lot, they were falling over when they had the ball. We had the ball enough. I think it was 68% possession. We didn't do anything with it. We played well within ourselves. It felt like there's other comments I've seen this in the last couple of weeks where people have been saying, is this some sort of meta strategy from Arteta that in the first part of the season he's been telling people to rein it in a little bit so that in the second half of the season we can go at teams. I think that's got to be horseshit. But I think the reason that people say that is because for so much of this season we have played without that guile, without that attacking thrust. And we've seen it in we've seen it in January. I've just got to deal with this because I want to see if I can help you, Lee Bummer. We knocked the stadium down to be like Real Madrid, PR Happy Meals FC. The stadium's still there, you bellend. We didn't knock it down. I know you're a Chelsea fan. Bar Stadium is still there. So anyway, that's good night to you, Brown Envelope Romano. And the grown-ups are going to do some talking now. We're going to ignore you for the rest of the night. The reality, I think, is that when people are talking about the fact that we've played with the handbrake on, which is the cliche people use or that Arteta coined, it's because we weren't seeing that ball through to release, let's say, Martinelli. Well, I wanted to see Martinelli running into space. He likes to come deep, get the ball, run with the ball past players. And I think against that left side, where, you do have a 41-year-old defender in there, it would have been nice to have him waiting and running into space and being released. But I didn't see anyone playing the kind of balls that were going to release anyone.
No. Well, look, we have to give a certain amount of credit to Porto, who've not been amazing in the Portuguese league, but I thought that they were very, very up for the jewels and they were very, very organised. The fact that we weren't able to pull them around is a shame. But and the one-on-ones that we did have, once again, I know we like the right-footed left wing and the left-footed right wing and all that sort of thing, but when was the last time Saka got to the byline and put it across?
No, and when he did, also his corners. Every corner was on that Saka side, which was just deeply frustrating because you think, can Declan just take one? It's like
right, yeah. Because look at the free kick he took. Gabriel had a free header, should have scored. He should have hit the target at least. And 2-3 minutes later, we ended up conceding the only goal.
It was one that your goal reminded me of the goal we conceded against Sporting, where I know you said earlier that maybe Raya's positioning could have been off or whatever. I don't know. I think a lot of keepers get beaten by those, and I think
it's just devil's advocate. When someone concedes a goal, it's very easy, especially if you're playing in the game, to point the finger. We all did it as kids and stuff like that. You try and blame someone straight away because something bad has happened. Declan Rice could have closed down. Jorginho could have not given it away. Raya perhaps could have been there. There's all sorts of different possibilities, or perhaps that Porto guy might not have hit so sweetly. There's all these different things. So I just wanted to just chill that sort of finger pointing down. For me, the biggest thing is if you're smart and you're mature and you're away in the first leg of a knockout European competition, the game hasn't gone the way you expected, but you're still 0-0, just fucking stick it up the other end. Don't give the ball away. Take the point. Take the 0-0. And that's what a Pep team would do. They'd say, right, I'll take that. That's what a Mourinho team would do.
I think that's fair to some degree, but on the other side of that is you're saying that's what a Pep team would do. We saw Pep's teams in the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
They faced similar problems, although they are a better team and they have been for a while. But it isn't like they didn't come up and stuck against teams in Europe either. Like when they finally made a final and lost to Chelsea. Which is a different scenario altogether. But I think that we go into a game like this, it felt like we were determined to be calm and I think that if you were going to play like that, start with Jorginho, have him on the pitch to start with, control the game. Don't bring him on and try and control the game. And it was a poor performance by Jorginho, but I think the poorest performances on the night across the front three. Trossard was anonymous. There were a couple of moments.
He had that shot, didn't he? But anyway, the whistle was blown because Pepe fell over.
Did we have a shot? I mean, I'm just looking now.
Didn't have a shot on target in the whole game.
I just can't get my head around that. Like to see how well we've been playing and taking our chances. I just think it's one of those things where a more naive team goes into it and just goes hell for leather at Porto, and then maybe we ship a couple of goals on a counter attack, and so maybe we should be happy that we didn't do that. But this kind of Arteta is like a lot, mega mind when Pep Guardiola's making these decisions to play and drop people, and people say he overthinks it. I think Arteta overthought this tonight a little bit. But I also think that it's the worst combination of Arteta overthinking it and not being brave enough. Because whether people like it or not, you and I talked about this so much last season, where in the Europa League, people were angry that we weren't playing our best team every Thursday, knowing that we had big games coming up on the Sunday. And we've got a really big game coming up on Saturday. And we've played the same players that have played the last three games. And if they're looking sluggish now, are we in danger of getting a draw out of that game or worse? And then what? And then, how is this any good for us at all? He doesn't trust enough of the squad. It could have been a game where Jorginho started. It could easily have been a game where Trossard or Martinelli were benched so that there was someone to bring on. You've got Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira, all right, who's not quite fit, and Eddie Nketiah, and he doesn't rate any of them, right? So what are they doing there? Then there's three youth players that aren't ever going to get on the pitch. And when you look, it really comes down to the only player I could see him actually bringing on was Emil Smith-Rowe. And when you start ticking into the 70th minute, that's not going to happen. So I think, let me put it to you this way. Are we pissed off for nothing? I mean, it was a poor performance. It was shabby. It was yet another European debacle. And for all the people that are calling for Arteta and blaming Arteta, and there's a comment in the comments. I'm not going to bother putting it up because it keeps changing his avatar. So you can't be four people, mate. Just be one person. But it says, talking about the fact that this heritage. Well, this is our heritage. Champions League, we go out it wasn't until they created the round of 16. Before that, we didn't qualify we just go out at this level. Now, I know we weren't playing Bayern Munich, we weren't playing Barcelona, but I also look at it in terms of who we were playing and taking them back to the Emirates. It doesn't change all that much because we needed to score on the night anyway. I would dearly love us not to be a goal down, but I still think we can get through this round. I just wonder if Arteta could start trusting his bench just a little bit more.
Yeah, he wants to be unpredictable, but he was.
That's so predictable. You can't be any more predictable than playing the same team and playing badly in the last 16 of Europe. That's utterly predictable.
It's when he doesn't have faith in players, he just doesn't play them. Even if they're on the bench, they're there in case of injury, aren't they?
Yeah, but this is on him now. This, last, I've said this so many times now. Last season, I was like, all right, he doesn't trust his bench. This season, it's his bench. He kept Eddie Nketiah. I don't think anyone at all wanted. I don't know anyone who's out there championing Eddie Nketiah. I don't know anyone who's really championing.
I don't think Arteta is anymore, is he? He didn't play tonight. Personally, yeah, exactly. He hasn't come on much at all. He's come on when we've been winning. Now he doesn't turn to him to get something anymore, does he? I agree with you. I think we could have had either Martinelli or Trossard on the bench. We could have started with Havertz up front as a focal point, which was horribly missing. A focal point who he can, even if it comes spinning off his arse, we can get a shot on goal because he's there to play the ball into. And knowing Havertz as often as not, that's how you're going to get it. But look, we can still score off it.
Yeah, I mean, I just worry that you could have had. I mean, tonight it felt like you could have had Kai Havertz up front wearing like a massive sign on his back, 7 foot wide, and people would have still missed him.
It was just for a throw.
Do you know what? It was just one of those days. It's been one of those days all through for me. Like it just felt lackluster and just crap, you know. And all teams have these, but the really good teams probably don't have them. We got found out a little bit in Europe. Maybe that's not a big surprise. We have a young manager that isn't at the elite level yet, and lacks experience. He talked about it at his press conference. He said we don't have experience. Well, what that boils down to is that I'd like to have seen some older heads on the pitch. I'd like to have seen Jorginho start. It would have been great if we had Thomas Partey. But you know, you said it earlier. Declan Rice was the one player that I think comes off the field with. I think Odegaard didn't do too badly, but Declan Rice plays like he's a mature player.
You know, when we're playing well, Odegaard comes deep, but he bounces deep and then goes into their half again, and he was hanging around there. It's when something's wrong. I agree with you, Jorginho. Double pivot would have been a little bit better. We didn't look. This one's on Arteta. We obviously didn't anticipate that they were going to be so consistently good at their press and at the duels. And if we'd expected that in the away game, I think we would have played differently. And I expect Arteta's gone away going, okay, maybe I got that one a little bit wrong. But even then, they say, yeah, you said earlier on, if you don't win, then don't lose. Other people say people can take something away. A show of a champion when they're not playing well, they still take something away from the game. We had it, and someone said it. I think it was it Stu Mack? I can't remember who it was. It was in our hands right at the beginning of the comments. It was in our hands, and one of our most experienced and settled players did something, in my opinion, is catastrophically stupid. You know, he half put his foot through it. He didn't. He half cleared it, half passed it.
It was a weird one because you're talking about the Declan Rice foul, and it was like it looked like it should have been a stop in play anyway. And then he kind of lunges at it, I think half thinking that there's going to be a stop in play, and there wasn't. And, you know, what are you going to say? It was a shit game. My bigger worry is not that you can't win if you're a manager of Arsenal right now, can you? Because if you make changes and you lose 1-0, people go, what are you doing? You know, like Kyle and all these other people who go, he's chucked away 15 out of the last 16 trophies. He should have won at least 4 trophies in the last 4 years, as if, you know, everybody does that. I mean, I want to remind people that when Man City win a treble, there really aren't that many other trophies to go around everybody else, right? So, yeah, it would have been criticised for playing too weak a team. I think as we go into this title run-in, and I had one eye on the Liverpool game as well. They were 1-0 down at half time, and I was like,
I know, yeah,
it's going to be brilliant, you know. But they've got injury problems.
Yeah,
they've got real injury problems. We've had our injury problems. Hopefully, we're coming out of it. They're going into them. I thought Man City yesterday looked absolutely lackluster. I mean, they were just.
Chelsea managed to stop them from playing to a certain degree, and it's real chicken and egg stuff. Like tonight, you know, how much was it with them snapping at our heels and the ref giving everything that they wanted?
Yes, you mean Brentford? You mean Brentford last night?
I do mean Brentford. Sorry, yeah. But even previously, Chelsea.
Yeah, everyone. I think Everton did the same, and I don't think they were great against Copenhagen. You know, I don't think City are playing well, but like you just said, the mark of a great team is that City aren't playing well and they're collecting points. They'll waltz through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And, you know, I still make us favourites to go through to the quarterfinals against this Porto team. I think they're a different proposition. But I said that last season when we played Sporting and got a draw.
I don't think they'll be able to do that. They won't have their fans, you know, as many of their fans keeping them going. Hopefully, there'll be some kind of a, you know, small cultural subliminal effect on the referee to stop him And this one got a new whistle today. I was watching Irish coverage tonight, and I think they said there was a foul every 2 minutes. I mean, it's just, it's disjointed. As I said at the beginning, no rhythm. If there is rhythm, then I think we will comfortably win. And the reason that they played like that tonight is because they knew that.
I think there's my hope. I don't know if I'm going to be right or wrong. My hope is that we get fired up for the next one. I think this one was all about, calming everyone down and just go out there. And sometimes you do always sometimes you get the feeling that Arteta overcoaches and overcomplicates. And now and again, you just like to, let them play a little bit more like the Fluminense system where everyone's just crazily going forward with the ball, no back passes. That is something that, if we are still 0-0 in the second leg, then you just hope that in the halftime he goes, just go for it, do what you want, just get at these people, have shots, take chances, don't always look for everyone else. Try something different, do something different. They really got our number in the corners in the first half, and I wanted to see if we could adjust in the second half. We've done that. We did that against Man United to great effect, where we changed the corners up at halftime. Didn't do it today. Didn't do anything. It looked like we were in control. We were happy with where we were.
I think we had a couple of back post headers that they didn't quite happen. I mean, they were the dark arts were most on display during the corners. They were. I mean, you see, like Ben White, who was obviously tasked with trying to block the keeper off, and they were throwing themselves at him and then crying like bitches when they fell down, and the ref was going for it. Towards the end of the last sort of quarter, third of the game, he started chilling out on the whistle a little bit, but by then the rhythm was already screwed. But look, Saliba had a header, he had to stoop for it. Havertz had a header, he had to stoop for it. There were one or two. They weren't an absolute disaster, but they really put a lot of work in, hard work into disrupting the rhythm of our corners and to the rhythm of our midfield. And they were successful in it. So I hope there's a lot of lessons learned from that, not just by the players, but by the manager.
Yeah, every day's a learning day at this level of experience, isn't it? I mean, it's something about that. I vividly remember standing in the North Bank when we played Benfica in the first time we'd qualified before it was the Champions League. And we'd gone away, we'd got the 1-1 draw, and hopes were high that we were going to dominate them at Highbury. And on the day, they did a similar thing. They sat off us, they let us have all the ball, and we were never incisive enough. And then they hit us with 2 goals in extra time, and we were out. Last season, we got a creditable 2-2 draw against Sporting, arguably a much better team than Porto. And then we kind of thought the job was done and didn't turn up in that rain-soaked game against Sporting, where he neither rested all his key players nor played a full-strength squad. That's you can put that down to some naivety from Arteta. This one, I have a problem with how Arteta set up the team, because I'm also conscious of the fact that it's a tough decision. Do you play your full strength squad? Do you play exactly the same team that's been doing so well? Yeah. Do you rest players and then
good question. I've got a question off the back of that. Right? Even though I like loaning players that aren't doing it and all that sort of thing. Sambi Lokonga is having playing pretty well for Luton at the moment. He's one of their best players. Do you, after that season, do you bring him back and let him know that he's not, starting 11, but he'll get minutes? Same with Tavares. I don't know how Tavares is playing, but all of those players, that we've been thinking, oh God, we haven't got anyone. We've got Cedric on the bench. We've got kids that he's basically said he's not going to play. I think, are we a little bit too black and white in this? I mean, I wasn't impressed by Sambi Lokonga, but there've been 1 or 2 times this season when I could have used him coming on, for some fresh legs.
I think he's benefited. I think one of the things that I found really interesting was that Vincent Kompany at Burnley absolutely rates Lokonga from their time together. He was his manager, and I was surprised he didn't go there, because it felt like a player like him probably needs somebody who really believes in him. For the game against Man United, he was outstanding. He has had 3 or 4 really good games now in a row, And he even elicited a comment from Jurgen Klopp where he came out and said, they loaned Sambi Lokonga to Luton. It's like, yeah, we did. Yeah. And about 4 weeks ago, no one thought that was a silly thing to do. We were surprised anyone would take him. He's shown what he's good. He's said some great things. He's got good press going on, and he's saying that he wants to come back. So it's good. We've also got Charlie Patino, Swansea, who's having a good season on the back of a good season away to Blackpool last season. It's not like we don't have options, but this feeds into another problem that I've got with Arteta, which is sometimes it feels to me like he's super cautious. Oh, I can't play Emil Smith-Rowe in this game. He's not good enough. And then you look at the Porto team and think there's players on that pitch that are nowhere near as good as some of the players that Arteta won't dare throw on. And you see this all through Man City playing. We've got Chungi. This is the first time for Chungi. Nice to see you, Chungi. Absolute disgraceful performance tonight. I completely disagree. I thought we were outstanding. I thought that was the best performance I've ever seen from an Arsenal team. I can't remember a time where I've seen such quality on the ball and our incisive passing. I mean, come on, try harder. I mean, if you're just going to come on and state the obvious, but nice to see you. It was and also I hate this word disgraceful. I think I hate it more than Arteta. So what does that mean?
Guys, disappointing. How about disappointing?
No, it's disgraceful. He killed my mum. Like, it's like, just fucking calm down. Do you know what I mean? The worst thing about it is you do wonder, like, what happened to people? Do you know what I mean? They get so...
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely disgraceful. I mean, it's actually using the word absolute to describe an absolute. Yeah. We were, I think, slightly, out-muscled and slightly out-tacticked. We did have 60-something% possession, but we didn't really do much.
He's going to explain it. We didn't have a shot on target, and that's a disgrace. Chungi, I don't think it's about you justifying why you think it's a disgrace. It's about paying attention to what disgrace means. Disgrace is when you do something that brings shame on you deliberately, right? Or you do something will bring shame on you. Inability to perform to the high standards that I'm sure you would have set on the pitch does not qualify as a disgrace. It's a disappointment. I guess the answer is we sack all the players and the board and everything, and we start again. And maybe this time,
exactly. And what's the biggest criticism, of Arsenal fans? That when we're winning, we're going to win the Stanley Cup and the Super Bowl and everything. When we're losing, we're all shit. We should be shot in the face.
Yeah, disgrace is the wrong word.
Disgrace. I mean, and that would be helpful.
It's just a deliberately hyperbolic word to suggest that things have been done that, like these players haven't tried their hardest. Now, I don't necessarily think they have tonight. I think that they can play a lot better. But I think there are just times, Chungi, obviously not you. You always do everything to the highest standards. I totally I totally get that. But some of us who are mortal, we go through life and sometimes it just doesn't work out for us.
I don't agree, Chungi. You want to put the Chungi's next
well, it's just more of not understanding what disgrace means.
Like losing 1-0 away in the Champions League knockout stages is not a disgrace. You're losing 5-0 to Stockport County. That's a disgrace. A little bit of perspective. You know what I mean?
But even that's not a disgrace if you feel like the players are trying hard enough. Disgrace comes down to when the players don't care, like in that last game with Unai Emery, where they're just walking around against Frankfurt and no one's even running. We were trying things that didn't work. We were below the expected levels. But being below the expected levels, which, as I'm saying, happens to everyone in every job. Some days you go to work, or maybe you don't. I don't know. But some days you go to work, or you try something and you don't do it as well as you could do, and you get frustrated and you go to sleep and you wake up the next day determined to do it better. That's not a disgrace. A disgrace is if they'd missed the plane. A disgrace is if they'd just gone, I don't fancy playing today. A disgrace is Marcus Rashford going out the night before training in Northern Ireland and then phoning in sick with a hangover. That's disgrace. The people that sit around and do nothing for Arsenal Football Club have never done anything at an elite level ever, and want to tell me that people who are out there running 10 kilometers are disgrace. It'd be like watching a fun run for, a charity fun run and all the people that don't win it going, you're a disgrace. It's like, get the words right. You can be disappointed and frustrated, but like disgrace. Save your disgrace for when somebody does something like throwing the armband down. That was a disgrace. When Granit Xhaka threw the captain's armband down, it was a disgrace. He redeemed himself somehow. I still don't know. I still think that there's a point to be made for saying he should never have had the chance to. But those things are disgrace. You know, Eric Cantona flinging himself into the crowd and kung fu kicking, however moronic the person was. That's a disgrace. Right, disgrace means a loss of reputation. Or respect as a result of a so what's dishonorable about not playing as well as you used to play or you usually play? How is it dishonorable? You've just made our point for us. There's no dishonor.
How was it a dishonorable action? You know, Chungi, do you play any sports at all? And if so, has there ever been a time when you've turned up to play and you haven't played as well as you have before for no reason you can explain, even though you've tried just as hard? It does.
Sure. I mean, you remember like when I played poker, right, for a living, there was a point where you just get to this. I had this one game where I was tanking money in a cash game, and I couldn't work out if I was playing like an idiot or I was just getting unlucky, right? Mm-hmm. And then there was a split pot where I folded, and the guy next to me says, "I swear you had an ace," and I went, "I did, but I couldn't beat his kicker." And I looked at the board, and the kicker wouldn't have played, and we would have split a fairly hefty pot. And then I realized, oh, I'm just playing like a moron, right? My bad. Got my stuff together, went home that night. It happens.
Wasn't your night. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just there are days when you turn up.
Sometimes it's not your night because the opposition plays in a particular sort of way.
But you know, does this imply that we should after the match they should have lined themselves up in rows and committed harikiri? You know, like this is it. You have brought great dishonor on our club. Not like the guys drinking energy drinks in their bedrooms shouting at the TV who have never brought any disgrace on us at all. But for the people that are actually out there sweating for the club, they're a disgrace. I think actually go back and think about dishonorable. Not bringing honor or glory. No, that is not what dishonorable means. You can try your best to bring honor and glory and that's not dishonorable. But anyway, I'm getting really bored of the idea that all right, Chunky, instead of just constantly telling me that you think it's a disgrace, how do we punish them for this terrible disgrace they brought on you, particularly you? What do you want us to do with them? Should we make them spend the evening with Lee Gunner? What do you want? What do you want to happen to these guys?
Dishonorable than that. I know, exactly. And once you've established, I think, this hyperbolic and unnecessary level of abuse after we've just been scoring more than 4 goals a game, ask yourself this question, Chungi: have you been giving them the reciprocal credit while they've been playing well?
Yeah, it's my fault and your fault. Now, so Chungi, what have you done to make them play really well then? When they played really well,
how have you expressed your standards to make them better? Is it because of you they've been winning all these games recently because of your high standards? Is that what you've done? Thank you. Thanks very much. You have a night.
I'm just going to come out and say it. Listen, I'm not convinced that these are actually Arsenal fans, but I can almost paint a picture of them now. Like, I'm just so tired of the nonsense that like this idea that it's fans like you with low standards and low expectations. Chunky, when you were still a wet puddle of semen that your mum accidentally sat on at the swimming baths one day, right? I was watching us win doubles. And even in Europe, by the way, I've seen us win in Europe. Was that me as well? Was that my low standards? Or have you just come along in the last 5 years, decided to support Arsenal because where are you from even, right? Stop telling me about our fan base. Our fan base is not you or Lee Gunner Speaks Facts or any of the people like you that think you know what you're talking about because you heard someone else say it and you're like the fact that what you're saying, almost everything you're saying, is something I've heard someone else say, is a disgrace. That's a disgrace. It's a disgrace if you can't think for yourself. That's dishonorable. You're bringing shame on yourself. Do yourself a favor. Have an early night. Leave the energy drinks.
Some intellectual integrity, for fuck's sake. Well, what does it even mean, expectations? What does that actually even mean? So, oh, well, we reckon. So what are your reckons doing for the team? What do your reckons doing during Arteta years when we were losing to people like Lille and Kiev? Were you at any of those games? Because I was, right? We used to lose against lesser teams than this. We used to
That
lose.
was a disgrace. It was a
So
Arsene Wenger was a disgrace.
More or less of a disgrace. That's what
George Graham was a disgrace. There is a need to get aggressive.
You just said it sounds like you ... You're the one that's got all moody with this, okay, Chungi, right? You're the one that said it sounds like you, low standards, low expectations,
an early night and
like that. How does that happen? How do we contribute to that?
Oh my
How
God!
Me,
out
here in Canary Islands, having low expectations by your standards, make our team play any worse? You're not thinking it through, Chungi. So don't point the finger at me.
It's not thinking it through. It's not thinking at all, because you know when someone's not thinking, because they're saying the same shit. It's like when they interview people who are Trump supporters and they just go, "We're going to make America great again," and you go, "Oh yeah, how are you going to do that? We're going to make America great again." So how have we ruined the standards? You're getting aggressive. How have we ruined the club? Why? You don't know what my expectations are, by the way. My expectations are we'll win the Premier League. That's what I expect. Now, have I done enough yet? Is that enough? Can I have a rest now? Because my expectations are really up there. I've been watching this club since before you were a puddle, and you want to talk to me about expectations. The only reason you support this club is because we were so good once, right? And I'm sorry we're not there now. We had a disastrous 20 years in the Premier League. And I'm afraid you can't blame Arteta for all 20 of them. You know, Lee Gunner speaks facts, and all the other ID fraud that he commits in pretending to be Fabrizio Romano, or whoever else he's pretending to be. And Chungi, I'll give you at least the credit for, I imagine that is your profile picture and that is your name. So fair play to you for putting your own face and name to the comments you make. Absolutely get that. But come on, man, just stop repeating the stuff you've heard other people say. Have a little sit down and think for yourself.
Changi, just calm down. You're the one that says it sounds like you would like to have to read it again. Changi, do I have to read your comment again? Sounds like you with low standard, low expectations, which contribute to them playing like that. That is an aggressive comment. That is you putting yourself against us. So we respond in kind. All right? There's hope for you.
People are allowed different opinions. I'd love you to have a different opinion. You're allowed a different opinion. You're just saying the same thing you heard other people say over and over again. There's no need to get personal and aggressive.
The only comment is to show everyone this is what it's like if you don't think. All we're asking you to do is think, and preferably before speaking or typing.
Next time you type something, can it be this? Can you explain to me how my expectations for a football club had anything to do with the game tonight? Because you're going to come back and say, we should not tolerate Arteta as a manager. You're not going to know who we should bring in. And I want to can I take a moment, Sean? Because, you know, like watching what's going on at Bayern. Bayern sacked Nagelsmann because he was a point behind Dortmund. He was in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and he was in the quarterfinals of the the Deutsche Pokal. And everyone thought he wasn't going to win it. So let's get rid of him and bring in a proven winner, right? All of the League Gunner type fans that were like, we need a proven winner. And actually, it wasn't the Bayern fans. It was the Bayern board. The Bayern fans weren't even unhappy with Nagelsmann. They got rid of him and they brought in a proven winner, a Champions League winner in Thomas Tuchel. How's it worked out for them? Do you want the same thing? You look around you, and I want to say that, you know, you've thought it through, but you haven't. If the fans expect, here we go. If the fans expect and accept poor performance, that will contribute to the team performing.
Hang on. Let's start. Let's just break this down, right? Firstly, it was an aggressive comment. It's down to opinion. We'll just have to move on past that one. If the fans expect and accept poor performances, first of all, poor performance value judgment. Second of all, who's expected it and who's accepted it, and that will contribute to the team performing poorly. Talk me through that one. None of what you've written makes any sense.
I want to back you up on that, because I didn't accept it or expect it.
Exactly. No one has expected or accepted it. We've been talking about how disappointed we were. And even if we did, which we haven't, it will not contribute to the team performing poorly. How will it? How will it? Because unlike the only person in the entire world who's stupid enough to think there's any contact between us and Arteta or the club is this twonk who won't shut up.
All right, I want to go to this one because this one sounds like an intelligent comment. Please don't prove me wrong, Leek Shilly. I feel like a 1-0 defeat is a blessing in disguise. If I interpret that, like, I think there's a lot in that. I think that it will mean that we have to step up our game a little bit. It does mean that we can't take anything for granted. We have had a bit of we've had a defeat, and it's how you bounce back from defeats. I am worried that we're not rested going into the Newcastle game. Maybe he makes big changes for the Newcastle game. Maybe he was always planning to bring in Jesus and Zinchenko, and I don't know. But is that what you're saying? Are you saying that a 1-0 defeat is a blessing in disguise?
Kick in the arse, to shake us out of something. Maybe. I'm still of the opinion that we came expecting a particular game plan, and if you talk about Arteta's unwillingness to use the bench and this, that, and the other, I'm not so sure if he's that good at turning to a plan B. He's got a little bit of Wengeritis.
Yeah, do you know what? I think you're on the money there, because, and I don't know if Jurgen Klopp was that good at a plan B 4 years into his management. There is a risk in having a really inexperienced. I've got to look. If you carry on, I will report the channel. I should have to put up with what I support your channel. You lost your mind. Do you support how do you support? It's your low expectations of my channel that have brought us here. Right, it's you in your nonsense repeating stuff that you heard Lee Gunner say that has brought us here. And if you want to report my channel, I don't even know what that means. Please do. Feel free. Report what you like. Your delusion is worrying, and you'll push viewers away with your aggression. I don't care. I honestly don't care.
Again, you started the aggression. You haven't addressed that. If you can say what you said isn't aggressive, then I can say what I said wasn't aggressive. When I was talking about a twonk, I was talking about Lee Gunner, by the way. In case you thought.
But don't even bother. I don't care. Listen, this channel is not here for everyone. All right, It is not a channel for people who get angry with players who've done more for our team than you will ever do in your entire life. You've done absolutely nothing for Arsenal, and going on at the fans, saying that we need to get rid of the players. What, do you want to swap the fans as well? Why not just support someone else? Why do you even support Arsenal? And certainly don't hang around my channel, because I never invited you, and I don't mind if you don't like it. I don't hang around on channels I don't like. I don't hang around leaving comments in Lee Gunner's channel because I disagree with him. Exactly. So anyway, we've got you understood me well. We didn't have a good game tonight, but the players will also feel the need to step up at Newcastle home against Porto. I'm calm. I'm calm. Yeah, I'm calm. So, oh no, Chunky's leaving. Oh no. Oh God, we're missing a moron. Did the world just get lighter? I feel like I'm floating. Anyway, piss off. So, come back to Leek. Totally agree with you. I think we didn't have a good game tonight. We really didn't. And not only did we not have a good game, but more worryingly, we didn't have a good game, and then we lost at the end. Because if it had been a 0-0 draw, we'd all still be disappointed. But it would have kind of vindicated Arteta, whereas I don't think this did so much. And I worried all the way through that second half, like Sean's talked about this as well, that we're just naive. We don't really know how to cope with when the referees are totally against us. And we don't have a plan B. I think there's a real case to be made that we don't have. There was nothing on the bench. There was nothing about the way we changed. I can't get my head around the fact that you bring Jorginho on for Trossard, who was ineffective. I'm not saying he should have stayed on, but Emil Smith-Rowe could have come on. That would have made sense. But he was sending a signal at that point that we're happy with the draw. And I think we can't afford to be happy with the draw. We're not the European monsters. We're not going to take them home and beat them 4-0. I hope we do. But Leek, it's been absolutely brilliant having you here. Thank you so much. Keep going. We will do. Thank you. And I hope to see you again soon. We do get this channel isn't for the morons. It's for intelligent people who have things.
I didn't want to say it's your channel, but yeah, I mean, like, if you want to just get on with the premise of, that was disgrace, and huff and puff and play the house down, then just piss off somewhere else.
Yeah, there's loads of
places for you.
It's an echo chamber around the corner for you. There's at least 6 channels I could direct anyone to where if you just want to hear someone shouting, it's a disgrace, I'm fuming, Arteta out, Lego head, all that crap.
Brown envelope merch.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I think he's in the pay of. That's all I can imagine. But I do I liked Leek's point, because that's the hope that we have, isn't it? If you look at the Newcastle game on Saturday, is so important. Then look at this guy. Look, I'll direct. Yeah, here's
there. They're just up there.
You've got something on your. Just there, you twat.
There they are. There's the channels.
Right. If only you could type. If only you could type Arsenal moron into the search bar and see if it doesn't take you back to your own profile pic. I mean, it's just so. The other thing I will say is I got a really brilliant series of comments from a guy on one of the videos I did, and it was a video where I was talking about how like I did the video on, is it time for Arteta to go, in or out, because I did that poll, and he was like, how can you claim that's the fact that in your poll 30% of Arsenal fans want to see Arteta out? That's not scientific at all. That's not good data. And I was like, no, I never said it was. I asked a question.
You can get your hands on, right?
Yeah, I just asked a question. And but we had a really good back and forth. And he said, like, I work in statistics, and I wasn't trying to criticize or anything, but I think when you talk about this subject, you make it seem like it's bigger than it is. Yes, there are a handful of angry people on YouTube that stir up YouTube to get views from people. But by and large, the Arsenal fan base don't hate Mikel Arteta. They don't use words like disgrace. 90% of them are. And so these sort of brown envelope Romanos or junior league gunner or whatever the hell he's going as now, they kind of make you feel, and especially on YouTube, because on the Facebook, you've seen the Facebook. I mean, everyone on the Facebook group was like, are you mad?
They're not so bad.
So when you see, so the point was we got to, and he was saying, just ignore them, just ignore them. And I think overall that is kind of what I do now. But when they come in here and they start the same shit, and you think, we had Carl Walsh on, and I really admire people that you can have a conversation with. You don't have to agree. I don't have to agree. If Chuggy had said something new or interesting ever, maybe we could have had that conversation. But you can't just come in and, I mean, it's just the same tedious crap, isn't it? And it doesn't, the fact that fan base, imagine if you just filled the stadium with people like Chungy for the return of the Porto game. We definitely win then.
They'd never go to a stadium. They'd never go to a fucking stadium.
I know.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't put in the effort, the time, the money, any of that kind of business. And that's irritating as well. But yeah, no, it's all about actually be able to have a conversation. If all you're going to come is put in an initial emotive premise and also an entrenched one, then there's literally nothing to discuss. All you can do is sort of go harumph at each other, and it's like that could last like 7 seconds and you're done, right? Let's harumph, harumph, not good enough. All this pompous horse shit that people think that their opinion actually matters for something, rather than actually talking about what might have happened in the game, what it might mean for other games. I'd like to talk about how we've got another 90 minutes for no points or nothing out of Declan Rice's legs, Odegaard's legs, Saka's legs. All of these people are now going to be 90 minutes more knackered.
It makes you listen. I hate to be the one to say this, but I'm doing it more to stir debate really than I haven't given it enough thought to claim it as a good idea. But like last season when we were in the Europa League and we had our first real shot at a title in like 10 years, I do worry that we get through Porto and we have a similar. If Arteta will not rotate this squad, then we end up, with Saliba's played every minute. At what point do you just go? Man City don't do this. Man City don't play up. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne apparently slightly injured. He's being rested. Do we just expect Declan Rice, Saliba, Odegaard, Saka to play every minute of every game? And it wasn't necessary. Martinelli could have come off at half time. I'm glad he didn't. I would have kept him.
I'd have taken Saka off. I think Saka was one of our worst players tonight.
Hard to say, really. I mean, hard to say. I think Saka's
time you take Saka off and give a half to someone like Nelson because you've actually got nothing to lose. But the problem is he's always got the thought he's such a good player, could just take one moment of magic.
But he
so
doesn't.
On just in case,
And then that's where you get to with Saka. You get to this 5 games in a row where it hasn't happened and you haven't taken him off. And at some point, you're going to have to rest him. And I come back to a comment where I said, "Oh, you've got rest players," and someone said to me, "This game's too important," and I'm like, "They're all too important. We have to win every one of our remaining games. That's the reality. There isn't one I can go, listen, the Etihad away to City, it'd be a disgrace. We'll lose that 2-0. It will be a disgrace, and or we might get a draw against Newcastle at home, and that's a disgrace. But at a certain point, I don't see us taking 39 points from the remaining 13 fixtures in the Premier League. There's got to be a couple like the Sheffield United away game. You've got to look at that and go, if Reece Nelson isn't good enough to play against Sheffield United with Eddie Nketiah,
that's the point. Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? There is a reason we have 25 people in our squad. We filled that bench up tonight, and it was no point in having a bench. There was no point in having a bench at all, and that isn't because these players.
I was disappointed with Janini, I must say.
Yeah, I was. It's going to be quite hard coming into a game cold. I mean, I could give him that as an excuse. But yeah, he had a shit game.
We talk about experience, don't you? European experience at that.
That's where you look at. That's where Kai Havertz comes in, because he's got these two both have winners' experience, but didn't see it today. No,
I mean, Kai Havertz wasn't our worst player.
No, he wasn't. I think we're going to disagree on that. For me, the left side, it was either Martinelli or Kivior. But that's not to say I thought any of them had a particularly good game. I thought Trossard was anonymous. I thought Martin Odegaard. I'm just trying to look at it actually. How many times did Martin Odegaard?
It's been shaky a couple of times in recent games. Maybe because he's played every minute of every game.
Saliba got really lucky in that the guy that hit the post and then hit it wide the other side.
Could you believe it? Yeah.
Yeah, he was nowhere.
He was caught napping. The guy just stole in. That's what I mean. These guys were on their toes from the word go. They were before us, and we were tentative. Again, I believe that I think we're a little bit shocked, rabbit in headlights sort of thing. But it carried on for the whole game, and I've seen it before, and I've seen it under Wenger, and I've seen it under Emery. I have seen it when we can't seem to get ourselves round. Maybe leadership is lacking. I don't know. Maybe we needed Zini to give us a huddle.
I think like the number of times players lost the ball, the duels they didn't win, the long ball accuracy. That was the other thing I was going to say.
We had a lot of trouble from their keepers' long balls, weren't we?
But I mean, like our long ball. I thought Raya actually, out of everyone, probably had one of the better performances.
He was okay.
And then, but everyone's long balls, like to find the channels. I thought that Saka and Martinelli were wide and high. Martinelli slightly more less than I would have liked, but so the outball to find them. There's one where Kai Havertz had a really good opportunity to put him through, and our balls were just a tiny bit less accurate, less well played than they needed to be. It was like
so they could see him coming. But we never pulled them out of shape to get those big gaps to play the balls through.
They were. I think we'll beat them and go through. Hey, Scott's here. Wouldn't it be funny if he'd come on and said it's a disgrace?
It was a disgrace.
The whole team was
in the face,
no urgency and inexperienced Saliba. Worst game for us. Yeah, arguably, but he hasn't been outstanding in the last 4 or 5 games. I mean,
I saw some urgency. What I didn't see was precision.
I didn't see urgency. I don't know where you saw urgency. I thought Martinelli had that.
I didn't see loads. I saw some urgency. I saw people trying to get back. I saw, let's not forget it was 0-0 until right at the end. So we were doing a certain job of stopping them from playing as well.
We had possession. I mean, we did it again where we had possession. We looked a little bit like we did against Fulham. That's what we looked like. We looked like everyone's waiting for a Dubai trip. and we can't keep sending them to Dubai. You know, we can't. I mean, I would at this point. I don't know what you do against Newcastle though. For me, I would, because they're not going to get any rest. You know, I'm not trying to. There's no excuses. I'm not the person to find excuses, is what I meant, right? But last season, Pep Guardiola talked about how they just the travelling is tough on Man City, and people always laugh. They go, "Oh, you know, they're millionaires. They fly in first class jets. Travelling does take it out of your legs. It's not ideal for a top class athlete. There are very few 100-meter runners who like to fly 2 days before they compete. There are very few heavyweight boxers who'll get in a ring 2 days after a flight of any kind, and all the things that go with it. It's not perfect, right? But we knew it was coming. So one way round it would have been to rest some players against Burnley, play them against Porto, and then we've done neither. I was thrilled at how we played against Burnley, but and it was important for our goal difference. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have done it, but I'm saying against Porto would have been the time to go, yeah, look, apart from anything, look at the moment, and this is a criticism I don't think anyone can talk me out of at this point. We don't have, when they say, oh, who do you think is going to play? I had people at work saying, who do you think is going to play in the back four? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I think our back four will play in the back four. And I don't see that at Liverpool, and I don't see that at Man City. And it's hard for me to imagine that's not going to bite us in the arse. I know Timber might be back at the end of the month. It doesn't look. We just looked flat and lacking in the final third. Yeah, we weren't in the final.
We were lacking in the final third. They had our number with marking space. Our tricks didn't seem to work with them, and that was a kind of a pity.
Just foggy, isn't it? It's just like they're not used to the environment. They're not used to the scenario. They're young. I think we lack some leadership on the pitch.
I think so too. I think we lack some leadership. Yeah.
This is one of the problems when you have.
You got it wrong. I think we were a little bit overconfident because we've been scoring so many hats full of goals, and we thought we could just carry on. And really, what we probably should have done is come up with a bit more pragmatic away in Europe kind of game with a focal point, and around their penalty area to see if we can get a few knockdowns, kind of thing. Plan B. But the people that everyone calls winners in Europe, people like Mourinho, who was not afraid to win ugly. That's how they do it.
I think there is, you can't get away from the fact that we lack nous. We just don't know how to.
Yeah, and Porto had plenty of that tonight.
Yeah, we've repeated it. Both of us agree on this. But the one player you go, well, he's got it. He's built for it. Like a Brazilian Italian who's won the European, Jorginho comes on, you go, all right, okay, at least he's going to steady the ship. And then he starts giving the ball to the Porto players everywhere. And you just think, how have you given the ball away more than Odegaard and you've been on the pitch like an eighth as long? I think as fans, this is part of it. There are games that you're disappointed. There are games that you're frustrated. And there are games that actually make you angry on some level, but it is just at a certain point you have to go. We wipe ourselves down and we start again on Saturday. But I am slightly more pissed off at the fact that he'll probably play the similar lineup against. Maybe he'll start Jesus and Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith. I don't know. Yeah. Does he go in for the wholesale changes against Newcastle? I think Newcastle's one of those games that could be a banana skin. They're not playing particularly well. But after that, at least we've got Sheffield United away, Brentford at home. 6 points from that, or it's over. I don't know.
We've got a long shot at the best of chances, at best of times anyway. When you have a look at the sort of the sort of form that they're capable of running. There we go. Yeah, because that makes sense. Because of course, everyone else is much more positive than us, and that's why their team never loses a game, eh?
I know. Tottenham are the most toxic and angry fan base, and they never win the league. And you'd think that they have, like, there you go.
Exactly.
Why don't you stop?
What it really
I do
is.
like this though. I said they was poor. Are you right in the head? Look, I think I can feel this one. It's like, is he right in the head?
It's the standards. That's the thing. It's the fan base. That's the problem. Everything's okay. Everything's fine, except the fact that our players are shit and our managers crap.
I do just want to point out that one of these days, I feel a little bit like, I just want to say, Scott, Sean, I want to say this on behalf of like the Highbrarians, Zaguna channel, Lee, anyone connected with us. I think we just have to start ignoring Brown Envelope, Romano, Lee Gunner Speaks Facts, because he isn't quite well, right? And I think we can all tell that. And all joking aside, whatever your real name is, I do kind of feel for you, because when you break it all down, you're spending a lot of time on this channel saying the same thing over and over again. And I don't know if that's healthy for you. And I think that there are more positive things you could do. So maybe dust down an old jigsaw puzzle and spend some time with a cocoa instead of an energy drink and just piss off. But I don't really want us to go in on him too much, because I just have this feeling. No, but I just want to say, hang on, I don't want us to go in on him that much, because I'm worried that he's going to do something to hurt himself. This is what I'm worried about, and I don't want any part of that. So, however stupid I think you are, and however unintelligible your comments are after a while and repetitive, I don't wish you any harm. Brown Envelope, Romano, League Gunner Speaks Facts, League Bummer, whatever you call yourself. I don't wish you any harm. I just have no time for you, and you keep repeating yourself, and as if on cue. So that's it. So I'm actually booting him, and I'm sorry.
He's a boring shit. I'm just tired of him, and his blowjob mouth.
Yeah. So I'm putting user in timeout.
Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
I will carry on as before. And so I want to hear from you if you're worried about the return leg against Porto. I'm personally not that. I'm not worried that we're going to lose it. Scott, you still think we'll go through? What does this actually mean, this defeat? Is there some endemic problem with the way that Arteta manages? Because this was frighteningly reminiscent of previous European matches where you have to say, we're not doing well, are we? I mean, this was probably the easiest tie we could have got. It's hard for me to imagine an easier one. And yet, when it comes down to it, here we are going into the home leg at a disadvantage. And we played our best 11. I don't think there's any question of that. I know Thomas Partey was in training this week. And I know that Gabriel Jesus was a touch and go, as was Zinchenko and Tomiyasu. And those four players, maybe we see them all come in on the weekend. Maybe he does drop Saliba. Right now, I think that my feeling was that towards the end of the year, we'd run out of a little bit of energy and steam. It was all getting a bit complicated and fractious, and the trip away helped to galvanize the team spirit. And I think we need to do it again, but we can't keep going. We certainly aren't going to be able to fit in a Dubai trip between now and Saturday, are we? So let's. So here we go. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Scott. Sorry. We have got to be more pragmatic in Champions League games. Totally different games to the Premier League, the refs, etc. So probably better preparation is needed. What kind of preparation do you do? I mean, like, they just didn't see. There are times where we just don't seem up for it. I'm thinking of the away game to Lens, where you can say whatever you like and say, oh, they're fam. I think the games where we tend to do badly, and maybe this is something that it has in common with it. The now infamous game we lost to Sean Dyche's when he'd just taken over Everton. You could put the crowd were amazing in that game. The game we lost away at Lens, the crowd were huge. I think the crowd tonight played a part. I think we have got to have more experience of going to quote unquote hostile environments. I I think what marks out the West Ham and the Burnley results for me was the way we cleared that stadium like there'd been a fire drill. When we do that, I think we walk it. But I think overall, to summarise tonight, no one's happy with this performance. No one's expectations have been met. No one's standards have been met. And I'm sure that plane journey back to the UK, where they arrive back tomorrow, and there isn't going to be time to do a full day's training on Friday, you wouldn't imagine. I think hopefully they dig something out of that. But the problem I have in blaming players is that if 2 or 3 players play badly on a night, you can go at them and you can have a go at them. When it's everyone, you have to go at the manager a little bit. You have to say something went wrong there. I know. I really thought he would do better, but I was saying to Sean earlier that so Martinelli was struggling with a 40-year-old. We expect that he would cook him. Yeah, totally. But Tom Canton, who I know you don't like, on Laguna Talk, he said like it almost be a good game to drop him, because Martinelli, when you drop him, always comes back a lot better. And also his impact, you know, if Pepe's on the pitch after the second half, bringing on Martinelli would terrorise him then. And I think now I like that idea. Arteta didn't do it. I wonder if that was a mistake. So I don't know what to say about it. I think
sometimes you go out with tactics and you expect them to work, and you expect your opposition team to play with certain tactics, and they do it different. And you don't do it. The problem that we have with that, I think he did change the formation at one point when he started playing with 2 false nines after we got Janino, and we tried to play with a square, a block.
That was it didn't really work.
No,
but it was a sign that
not with one of the pivots giving the ball away all the time.
Well, they all did. I'm just going to look to see who gave if you had to, and I haven't looked at this yet, but in your opinion, who gave the ball away most often?
Who gave the ball away most often? Good question. God, not quite sure how to choose. I suspect it could have been Martinelli.
Well, I haven't got through the team yet, so it's just a guess. But so far, it's Saliba's ahead with 11 times from Odegaard. Gabriel, I didn't think played as badly. Jakub Kivior had that one pass in the first half. I thought, God, that's the best pass he's ever played. Didn't come to anything. Martinelli was wasteful. You can't. There's no way around this.
But he was busy. He was a live wire. He did. You know, I said the commentators. They said, you know, he wasn't up to his usual, but he did manage to get to the byline at one point. Even then, we were a little bit hesitant. I feel that one of the best things that Porto did tactically was not let us. Settle,
we have a clear winner, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Well, so far I haven't checked every player, but if there's a player on the pitch that gave the ball away as much as this guy, it's amazing we didn't lose 6-0, because he's given the ball away 27 times. The next nearest to him is 11.
Trossard?
No, I haven't looked at him yet. He's the final one I'm going to look at. No. Possession lost by Leandro Trossard 7 times. I mean, to be fair, he barely touched it.
But when he did, he gave it back again.
He gave the ball a third. He gave away the ball a third of the time. But Gabriel Martinelli gave the ball away 27 times from.
It was Martinelli.
Okay. He had 54 touches and gave the ball away half of them.
Okay.
That's not good.
I mean, I've seen him like in that mood before when he's trying to like take on the world, and he's just trying to do a little bit too much.
That's what managers do, isn't it? They go get Reece on there, because how could Reece Nelson have played any worse? But I'm being
point about Saka as well.
But no, my real point is actually when Emil Smith Rowe was saving Arteta's career at Arsenal. He was doing it on the bloody left. So we do have a left-sided player on there.
Embarrassment of riches, yeah.
Yeah, that's one place. So, yeah, no, Scott, I don't know if you picked it up. It wasn't Kai. Kai gave the ball away 9 times. Most of the team gave the ball away 8 or 9 times. But Martinelli gave it away 27 times out of 54 touches. He only had 18 accurate passes. No accuracy in his crossing at all. Didn't try a long ball. Only won 7 out of 18 ground duels. Lost both his aerial duels. Committed 3 fouls. Had 3 tackles. So, it's not bad. He's better than Anthony. But, that was a horror show.
So am I.
I know. I mean, that's the only way tonight could have got worse, is if we found out that Anthony had been signed or even on a free. Well, I will, I'm not trying to single out Martinelli. I'm a huge Martinelli fan. I'd be surprised if any of you, I'm sure both of you two are as well. Of course, yeah, intelligent people are. But this one surprises me a little bit, actually. When you look at it, the possession lost by Jorginho is 3, which I'm sure I counted. Yeah, I'm sure I counted more. But when you think he only touched
those 3 times, yeah.
But he only touched the ball 14 times, and he was 73% passing. I mean, everywhere you look across this pitch, I felt I'm here to be proven wrong, right? I just felt that when we lost to Fulham, it was tiredness, and I was really glad that there was a break. I said at the time they were playing as if they knew they had a break coming up. Like that, the day before Christmas Eve at work, and it's a proper day's work and everything, but you go in and you kind of go, oh, I just want this to be over. You don't start anything. You don't really get on with it. You're waiting for the, for the next day off or whatever. It felt like they were playing like that for me, and felt like that again today. And it felt like that against Lens. We've had performances that have been bad. I think when I look back at this season, defeats that we've had, we lost at Aston Villa with a great atmosphere. We lost at St James's Park with a great atmosphere. Pluck knows why we lost at Fulham. That shouldn't happen. But, that's quite a close stadium. And there was no excuse for losing to West Ham at home. But then there was an anomalous game. We weren't playing badly. We were just not scoring. Same again today. We need a striker. I know we've scored as many goals in the Premier League as Man City, but we need a striker.
I'll say this about today, and I said it texting earlier on. In a European night, in a big European night, you want Jesus. He has got an incredible record at scoring in Europe. He's got those dark arts that Porto showed against us tonight. He knows when to throw himself about and make the right kind of frequency, girly, shrill scream that's going to get the referee's attention. He knows all of those things, and he does them when he has to. Porto did it, from 1 to 11 tonight, and they did it all night. And it disgusts me, honestly. But it's part of it. You have to deal with it. I'm not going to spend any more time sort of, crying about it, because we should have known it's going to happen. And once you realise you've got that sort of referee that's going to give them what they want, you've got to adjust. You've got to adapt.
He was awful. I mean, he was awful. He was objectively awful.
He was a terrible referee. Until near the end, when it started getting tired and loose, I was thinking about tonight's live, and I was thinking, nothing to talk about. They never had a chance to play. When you see them leaning into us diagonally, which would normally be a foul, and then
the funniest one was at the corner where the guy just assumed that he was going to be pushed over, so he fell to his knees.
He got it as well.
It wasn't. It was the same. It was the same time when someone stood on the keeper's toe. That's what.
They didn't. Did you see the replay on that? No one went.
No, I didn't. No,
one went anywhere near his toes.
The keeper. Oh no, I didn't. No. But what I'm saying is that it wasn't the guy on his knees that won the free kick. That was my point. But if you see that, and I mean, presumably the VAR guy spat his coffee out laughing, because he was like, I mean, that's a disgrace. If someone I loved was a professional footballer and I was hugely proud of all the work that goes into them becoming a professional footballer, and then they did that, you'd have a word when you'd go like,
yeah. And I saw it in open field as well. That the goal that, well, it should have been on target, but Trossard ended up skying it. Pepe fell over under absolutely zero pressure from anyone. He was leaning against someone, fell over, made the right noise, and just as Trossard was kicking it, which he missed by miles anyway, the whistle went. I saw something on the left-hand side. I don't know if it was their good player. Who was their good player? Conceição? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that's the manager's son.
Yeah, he played really well, but he was also a cheating git. But that's true of all of them. He was leaning and leaning and leaning, pushing someone away. Eventually pushes them so far away that he ends up falling over and he gets the foul.
Yeah.
It
was a horror show. It was an absolute horror show in the sense that, yeah, I mean, it's going to be, if every referee in Europe was like that, I don't think there'd be any kudos to winning the Champions League, because it would just come down to the teams that are dirtiest or cheatiest, and it's
playing the ref.
Yeah. It was a terrible game of football to watch. I'm obviously hugely biased, but if we'd come away with that from a 0-0, you can always. I mean, it's a European night, right? It's the last 16 of the Champions League. It's been so long since we were there. The music started playing at the beginning, and I was happy. I was like, yeah, come on, this is going to be a good game. I predicted 2-0. I thought we'd be comfortable. I thought we'd suck the life out of the fans by just controlling the game. And we started a little profligate with our passing, and I thought, oh, we'll get into the groove with this. But it was literally the first minute when the referee started messing with the game, and you just think, oh, really? And it didn't get any better. Well, definitely not watching the highlights. Well, you can. I'll time you. It'll take you 30 seconds.
Yeah, they've already been and gone, Scott.
Yeah, I've just they flashed up in between when I was talking. Then
it's a whistle. It's the referee's whistle for the kickoff and half time and re-kicking off in the second half and full time, and that's it. But look, have a look at what did go right for them. There was that time when Conceição nutmegged Kivior. And Kivior, I thought, gave a very professional and mature yellow card. There's another time when they got to the byline, and I think it was Saliba that managed to get his foot in and block it. These sorts of things seem to happen in European football, where you have people like leaping around like a spring salmon, very, very dull. But occasionally you have this moment of brilliance, And we were trying to play it like a normal Premiership game, where we can play a few through balls and some intricate little 1-2s and maybe get through. They were too organised for that. It's this one kind of thing, and who's the person in our team that can provide us for that? It's Jesus. He's the person who can just play a normal ball in, and he just dumps something, and nobody expects. Next thing you know, he's behind everyone and he's volleyed it in. That's our guy. He wasn't available, and I think we really, really missed him today. And I would like benefit of hindsight. I would like us to play Havertz up front and Juninho.
What about Nketiah? I mean, I'm not a fan of Nketiah. And Scott's just asked, I know that Barcelona drew 1-1 with Napoli. My God, they've fallen away badly. What are they, 12th at the moment in Serie A? They've had their third manager on the sidelines. Yeah, they're all cagey games, aren't they? No one's really walking away with this at the moment. I thought Paris Saint-Germain under Luis Enrique are my dark horse favourites to go all the way in this one. Just a shit night of football. I really thought we would play better, but I would have played Eddie and Nketiah. I would have given some of these guys. I mean, what if he? I know this is benefit of hindsight, because I was totally on the fence. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't. But all day I've been thinking, wouldn't it make sense to just play not your second string? But I remember, but my thinking on it, and this is what the bloody fan base does to you. This is what the press does to you. You want Arteta to be someone like Alex Ferguson, who doesn't give a shit what anyone says about him. But I kind of feel like he does. I feel like he's nervous about playing a second string side against Porto, because then he'll get roasted for the fact that he's thrown another game away. I think he's played his strongest team. He clearly is not in the highest echelons of management when it comes to rotation, right? You cannot I don't think even Arteta would have to take that. You'd have to say, look, you're not good at rotating your squad. You may think you have your reasons. You may have your reasons, but you're not good at rotating your squad. You certainly didn't make the substitutions. So on some level, you're planning to do this season, what's left of this season, which is a good chunk. It's about a third of the season left, right? You're planning to go through the last third of the season with just 11 players. And I think that is going to be hugely problematic, particularly because we now, I mean,
let's call it 15 to be fair. Zinni gets
14
played,
games left.
Played.
Yeah, they do. But that's assuming no one else gets injured. I would predict that, and Luton had one job. They nearly did it, Scott. Come on, be fair to them. They've got one job left this season, which is lose to us, because that's the full set then. It's funny how many teams that we all still have to play. We all play Man United. We'll play a big part in the league run-in. You can't. I think the idea that we won't get. I mean, what if Gabriel gets injured? Saliba gets injured. I mean, the only person that we could absolutely afford to have injured really is David Raya. Be like, oh yeah, good. I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I don't have a preference at the moment between our keepers. I'm really happy when I see David Raya in goal. I think he's really grown into the role. I would have picked this lineup today. Scott, very honest, truly, I probably would as well. But I don't think I would have this exact 11. This exact 11 I wouldn't have. I would have been using Emil Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson, and I would have been using Nketiah.
And not because Havertz up front. I would have definitely played Havertz up front today.
I'm playing Eddie Nketiah in the back four. No, I think, but this is the difficulty because Trossard's been playing so well. Can you drop him and you go? But
an away night in a Champions League, yeah.
I suppose on one level, it's absolutely foolish for anyone to say that he got the selection right. You can't say he got the selection right tonight the way they played. Maybe that's the hardest bit about being a manager. You pick 11 players who are really good at football and they get 21 goals in their last 4 games and you think, oh, this will be good. And then they all just go, which way are we kicking again? I don't like it. Maybe the food on the plane was bad. Maybe they should stop flying Ryanair. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just,
maybe Porto are better than the last 2 teams we played against.
No, they're not. Why? Why would you say that? Former champions of Europe better than West Ham? Please, they're current champions of Europe.
Good point.
I don't think there's any question that Porto at home are a tougher opposition than Burnley at home. I'll make you right. And a lot more to play for, and there's a lot more at stake. And we fell foul of a very well managed. It's frustrating because Porto has so much work. They're so far back in the Portuguese league. It feels like on just this performance, it feels like a step backward from last season, where at least we went to Sporting and got a draw with a second string team. And Sporting, and they've got some players that are really good. And now, I still think we'll get through. I think we all do. I think that it's been nice not having the toxic fans shouting all the time the last few weeks. And that's what I miss. I miss the serenity.
They just hibernate. They hibernate until you get the next disappointment. It goes, see, told you. And it's the most dullest thing in the entire world. And that's the problem that we're facing. And on this channel, which I commend in its approach, you're trying to allow, some proper, discourse in the world of football. And, the people who are already in the world of football, I go, no, this isn't the place for that. No, this is emotive.
Pick your narrative. It's like one of those, do you remember when you used to line up at the deli counter and there's a ticket machine, you take your number? Well, it's like that, but you take your narrative.
Yeah.
Arteta out. Right. Well, that's me. I'll be in this group.
You hold on to it. Arteta out and you go, okay, well, we've just won like 4 games. So
on the Premier League.
I'll just put it in my back pocket and I'll wait until the next time.
We've just won the Champions League. Well, think what we could have achieved if we'd sacked him. You know, it's like you
Well,
can
think
never
what
be
I'll
wrong.
achieve next time. Now we've won the Champions League. Now not winning it next year is a reason to sack him.
It's a
Because the
failure.
only thing that matters to me is cashing this ticket in.
And saying the same thing over and over again. But I have missed. I haven't missed the. I've been really interested in watching the people who are so fervently Arteta out, going on calling players my baller and saying, now they're playing. This is what I've wanted to see. And when they play well, I do give them praise. But when they play badly, it's like this involvement, this feeling like
they're playing well now because I was giving all that shit before. It's because of me. I made them play this well. I did it.
But it feeds into sure, and that's why we don't understand it, because we're of a different time and an era where we didn't think when I started watching football, it was me becoming part of a crowd, right? But like it wasn't me being the most important part of it. It wasn't me, influencing it and I'm the center of it all. And when I say Arteta's playing badly, if he listens to me, it's these guys all think that we play a bigger part in this than we do. They all think they play a bigger part in it than we do. That's why, I mean, I can't imagine what would.
Yeah, but they do that, but without any accountability, of course. Let's not forget. I was wondering if you're going to put that comment up. That's one of.
I was, and I saw you reading it, but I sometimes finish a sentence and then put them up. It's all tactfully done and well constructed.
I don't know what to say, Scott. I really don't.
I don't think there is a Lego. Is there a Lego? I'm looking this up. Lego Stranger Things set.
I'm guessing he's not lying.
I think he's joking.
He's stressing building my Lego Stranger.
Lego Stranger. I think.
Was it very stressful, Scott, building? Or
oh my God, there is a Lego Stranger. Mate, if you own a Lego Stranger Things and it costs what this one on here costs.
He is stressed. Have you finished it, Scott? Have you finished making your Lego Stranger Things set?
Did you pay full retail price for this Lego Stranger Things set? Have you seen the cost of that?
Has anyone with 16 daughters got spare cash?
How are you doing this? Yes, it did. It cost. Mate, it's a good thing you're in New Zealand, because I'd be chasing you around the room trying to hit you with a cushion at least. What are you doing? Don't you ever? It's 400 quid.
400 quid for Lego.
Yeah. Oh my God. Mate, has better increased value than gold. Keep telling yourself that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you know what Warren Buffett's got all his money on Lego? Just a better resale value than gold.
I got loads of Lego. I must be. I'm well happy.
Mate, if the apocalypse comes, I'm melting down all my Lego for currency.
Actually, Scott, a few Christmases back, I got a Lego Friends set. My wife, she never opened the box. So if that's all boxed up, it must be worth a fortune.
It's the only friends you've got is Lego Friends.
Yeah. Ghostbusters car.
Listen, that sounds cool and everything. I'm okay. I actually have. My black and white Stratocaster. Dominique and the boys bought me a exact replica of it. It's one of my favorite possessions. But it wasn't. I hope to God they didn't spend 400 quid on it. I mean,
Dominique and the boys bought you a replica of something you already own.
No, it's a Lego version. It's the exact. It looks exactly the same. It's quite unnerving. It's a black and white with the maple fretboard. Beautiful piece of Lego. Loved it. Spent a whole afternoon sitting around making it. But I wouldn't have unboxed it if I thought it was 400 quid. I would have just been like, put that in the safe with my gold teeth. Hang on. Boxes
represent the resale value. In other words, once you open the box,
Scott, you've been on a spending spree, and you're doing that thing that shopaholics always do. Go, it was half price.
It's an investment. It's an
investment. I've never heard anyone call Lego an investment. But listen, you know what? Anyway, when you send it to me. That's easily on the NASDAQ. You can't even get Lego anymore. It's like I'm shorting Lego.
So yeah, where was going back to?
Also, don't tell me you didn't come on because you're playing with your Lego.
Yeah, he's de-stressing. He's de-stressing from having put the
But
Stranger
now
Things
the
together.
fact that here we go, brown envelope Romano. You can't get rid of. It's like when you get mold in a shower on a tile in the shower.
Yeah.
It just hey, so brown envelope Romano. Thanks for coming. It's been real. I'm booting you again. Just as quick as that. It doesn't even look. It doesn't even take me very long. Bye.
Yeah, it's time to
comes back.
Just enough. I don't think he's getting you any leverage. He's going to bring that other twat that came along, went and then got all.
What the one that was going to report me?
The one that insulted us. He came up with that stuff, and then got butthurt that we replied in kind.
You know what? It wasn't even the fact that I felt that he'd insulted me. It was the fact I just didn't. I thought what he was saying was just such puerile nonsense. And when I told him it was puerile nonsense, he got himself all agitated by it. But it is that kind of not millennial. Why are they Gen Z? Where they go, they can say whatever they like, but the minute you go, shut up, you're boring. They go, you can't say that. Watch me say it. I'll say it because I think it, and that's that.
I wasn't even giving him the A material because it's your channel. I don't know if I said the wrong things, it might go wrong, you know?
Nah, you can do what you like. Listen, the channel's the channel, right? Like, I mean, I get my brown envelopes from Arteta.
Directly from the football club, absolutely.
Yeah. So they're fine if I took it offline. They'd be like, Stan, it's still worth millions to us what you're doing. You're fighting the good fight. If it wasn't for you, people would have raised the standards.
I want to be able to treat people that just come into this channel and start just talking emotive, ignorant crap. Football is a safe space for ignorance, and if that's what it's going to carry on being, then I'll just watch the match. I won't bother commenting on it because that's fine.
Yeah, no. Listen, the whole point that we have all the time in the world, for people who come in and they pay me in Lego. Nice. No, they can't afford to pay you in Lego. I've spent all the Lego money on Declan Rice.
Right.
But this is
they pay you in gold instead because it's cheaper.
This is YouTube's platform, so whatever. But this channel on YouTube is not like. You don't get to come on here and just talk gibberish. You get, here we go. He's changed. This is how much, of course, they pay you in Lego from the Lego head merchant.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Oh, my God. What devastating repartee. What a slappable face. Anyway.
No, but that's not even his face. That's what's so distressing about it.
It's slappable, though. Whoever's face it is.
Yeah, no, it's a hugely slappable face. No question about that. It's the sort of face you want to connect to a frying pan, but it's not really, there's nothing the guy can do about the face he's born with, is there? But this guy nicked it. That's what's worse about it. I probably have a good conversation with Lee Gunner, but Lee Gunner speaks facts, or Fabrizio Romano.
I'd love to see you have a face-to-face conversation with Lee Gunner.
Yeah, I would. I'd quite like to just have a very calm, because what I notice is whenever these guys go on other channels, they just have this kind of way of talking over each other, and I just wait and then go, you're going to need to, and I'm obviously not very bright, so I need you to explain to me how me being happy with the fact that we're in the Champions League is the reason why we're not winning the Champions League. Because I don't ascribe that much power to myself, but I want to know how it's possible. And if you can convince me of that, what I will do in order to get us to win the Champions League, I will henceforth be furiously angry every day of my life. Because that's apparently what it takes.
Really? Yeah. And what can you say? I remember going back to whatever he was called, Kirky or Curly or Plumpo, or I can't remember his name.
Chunky.
He said,
Chunky.
Your expectation or acceptance of low standards does cause this, which is, first of all, the reassertion of something that didn't make any sense in the first place. Like, how could it do that? How do you think Dan and Sean's expectations get onto the training field in any way, shape, or form?
You're missing the point, Sean. What's happened is on the plane over, they were like, do you think Dan and Sean would mind if we just didn't win tonight? And they were like, and Saka said to Saliba, they're cool with it. They don't care. They want us to play badly. They want to look forward to this match for years, just to have us play like dickheads. You know, that's what. But wouldn't have bothered me, as I wouldn't have gotten so wound up if it wasn't for the fact that we'd spent the preceding period of the entire show talking about how disappointed we were and how this match hadn't met our expectations. To go, well, because you're accepting this.
Oh, it's right with you. It's your fault, isn't it? Yeah.
But the point I want to develop is that what is my choice but to accept it? What are the choices? I can either accept it because it happened, and that's what accepting it is, or I can go, no, that didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Like it didn't happen.
It didn't happen, Sean. No? We won that game 4-0. I'm not prepared to accept the low standard.
No, you're missing the point this time. You've got to huff and puff online and talk absolute crap, never at any point talking about how we lost the game, and say it's not good enough. It's like in this day and age, it's the amount they play. Arsenal's big club shouldn't be fighting losing games, isn't it? Yeah, fucking hell, can't over that, can we? And that's it. And that's how you raise the expectations. That's how you get your team.
I'll do that from now on then. It's a little bit like, learning an instrument, you learning an instrument, Scott learns an instrument, Lee and Kyle and everyone, we all learn an instrument. We want to play music, and the guy comes in hitting his head with a frying pan, going, I want to be in the band. And you go, well, do you play an instrument?
Oklahoma.
Yeah, so you go, look, you're not really fitting in with the rest of us. There is a place. It's not like you're. Do you know what I mean? When the guy was like, this isn't what I came to your channel for. It's like, I don't know why you're surprised.
Oh God.
Not like, oh no. It's like someone walking into your shop and going, do you sell spam? And you go, we don't sell spam. And you go, well, I'm going to stay here and complain about that.
I thought you would. I came in here because I thought it was a spam shop.
It's your fault that Arsenal haven't won the league because you don't sell spam. Have a good one, chaps. I'm starting to feel like Ted Bundy in my comments. Why? Why Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy.
We need a cowbell.
Yeah, well,
more cowbell.
Ted Bundy thing now. 1 second, sorry.
Hang on. It's back to me now.
Sorry.
It's just on me. I prefer it. So anyone else, if you're watching this and you completely disagree with us, that's good. That's fine. You're entitled to do that. Please get in the comments. Let's debate it. If you're interested in joining in one of these lives, the invite is open to absolutely anyone. All bets are off. You can't get us demonetized, so don't worry about the things you say. But if you can't debate, and if you're just going to sort of cut and paste your comments from sort of a prescribed list that say things like, we tore down the stadium, which we didn't, to compete with Real Madrid, which we didn't. Or if you're just going to say that the fans are to blame for the performance on the pitch because you've run out of anyone else to blame, then don't expect me to take you seriously. And if I don't take you seriously, if Sean doesn't take you seriously, if Scott doesn't take you seriously, then we're not going to talk to you like we take you seriously. And you're going to probably get you're probably going to get a bit of stick from us. I kind of see this as not that much different from if I was standing next to one of these melon heads on a football terrace. Do you know, if someone standing next to me was going, it's your fault they didn't score that goal, I'd just tell them to fuck off on the terrace. Like
absolutely, because they decided to say it to you. And if you've got someone sitting next to you, you go, oh, you're this, that, and the other. You go, I'm going to leave him off. And then once some stage, you turn around, you go, this is your fault. You go, okay, you've engaged me now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking. Fair enough. You've done this, just like Curly did earlier on. It's like you come on with a premise. You decide to say it to me. You come up to me in the pub and you said, I think that was a disgrace. You go, oh yeah, why is that then? Did we lose 50-0? Did we just go and take a piss in the crowd? What is disgraceful about it? Well, we lost, didn't it? We didn't play well enough. So is there a little bit maybe of like disappointment there? Yeah, I'm disappointed. Well, then say that then. That's what you need.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head there, haven't you? Because the question there is it always a disgrace when you lose 1-0 away? Yeah. Is it always a disgrace?
Or when you lose at all?
Yeah, is that always a disgrace?
Every single football team is a disgrace.
Yeah.
Every season, except for Arsenal once.
Man City disgraced themselves twice this season against us. They should be forced. Do you know what is interesting? I've just thought this. So it's getting late, and that almost certainly means it's not one of my best ever ideas. But I think you should be allowed to have backing from anywhere. Like Chelsea should have had to go and play in Russia. If your owner's Russian, you should have to be at least fly over and play in the Premier League for all I care. But you should be back. So I think City should have to live in Abu Dhabi. Newcastle should go and live in Saudi. And you said earlier when you were doing an impression of Chuggy or whatever his name was, and you giving him a London accent. It's not the case, is it? It's not the case.
No idea.
Because
no idea.
See, we support Arsenal.
I recognise the narrative, you know.
Yeah, but we support Arsenal because it's our local club, not because they were good. These guys support Arsenal because they're good. So for them, it's unfathomable that Arsenal wouldn't be good. And we go, but Arsenal are sometimes not good. That's just the same way Man City used to play against York, or Manchester United are shit now. You know, it just goes. Oh, so what should my narrative? Oh, this is interesting. He's come back.
What should be my narrative? What should my narrative be?
No, actually, you can say what should be my narrative if you're talking to the Merchant of Venice or.
Good point.
What I would say,
what should be my narrative?
Lee, the problem is instead of just having a narrative, have a think, and then have an opinion.
Exactly.
And
have
and
a
then
mobile opinion. Have a mobile.
Lee, I tell you what.
Opinion.
It feels like the green shoots. So Lee, let's not have an opinion. What is your honest opinion on what we should do about tonight's performance? Have a think about it. Don't go and check with the real Lee Gunner first, but also don't try and be somebody else. Because narrative, we call it a narrative because it's lazy, because lots of people are saying something they heard without thinking about it. It becomes a narrative. It becomes background. It's like background radiation. I think you're capable.
And it's a received opinion. It's a received opinion. Have your own opinion.
If you agree, that's fine. But then you should be able to reason it out. You shouldn't just keep saying, we tore down the stadium. You should go, first of all, Dan, I acknowledge that we didn't actually tear down the stadium and the stadium is still there, that we just moved across the road from the stadium because we weren't able to develop the stadium such that over the last 20 years, had we stayed at Highbury, half of the people who've been to see live football wouldn't have been able to do that. And that would have been detrimental to our fan base. You could say that. Or you could engage me by not just repeating something you said 15 minutes earlier when I say to you, we didn't tear down the stadium. You have written, we tore down the stadium over a dozen times now on this channel. And every time you do, it just reminds me that you've never been to Highbury. And that's okay. You can be an Arsenal fan from anywhere in the world. But it should matter to you that you don't know the things you're saying. It should matter to you that you're just saying, it's like, the mouth is going before the brain has a chance to keep up with it. And that's a narrative. Your narrative tonight, you can be upset, disappointed, angry. You can point out where Arteta went wrong and the mistakes he's made. We can discuss that. We're all grown-ups. Well, I think no, I'm not even sure of that. I know it's late, but where you are, it might be 2 a.m. It might be 5 p.m. I have no idea. But let's assume that you are an adult or somebody nearly adult age. We can have a conversation. If you turned up on the North Bank with your stupid copied opinions and some bloke my age stood next to you and said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not going to try and silence you. I'm just going to try and ignore you. But I'm more than happy to engage you in a conversation and discuss it with you. I'm welcoming you on the channel, by the way. You are welcome to come on here and have a conversation with us anytime you want.
You shouldn't have a narrative. Okay? Don't have a narrative. The whole point about narratives is not to have them. It's not about picking your team. It's not about waving a colour flag. Yeah, we all support the Arsenal, so that's the colour flag we wave in that regard. But within the Arsenal, you don't have to pick a sort of a cult within it. Just have a look at everything that happens. Have a look at each manager, each player, each performance, and size them all up. Don't come up with these sweeping statements. Oh, well, we've got to get rid of him. We've got to get rid of that. We've got to fucking do this. Got to do that. It's not a short answer. There's a complex thing. Loads and loads of people make millions of money out of it, and it is a lot of moving parts. It's a lot more complicated than we probably give ourselves too much credit to think that we understand it. We don't. So we're just trying to pick a few bits out of it. We're trying to do it without any aggro, if possible, But if
I'm ready for aggro, man. Like, just don't even put them off because I don't mind the aggro. You and I don't mind aggro, right? We grew up with it.
No, I mean, I'll just give it back, but what's the point? You know what I mean? What's the point?
No, there is no point.
Calling people muppets and restating, this silly shit just to try and get a wind up. We're older people now. You're not going to wind us up, Lee. You're not going to do it. So, if that's all you're interested in, you're in the wrong place. We couldn't give a shit what you think. Unless you start actually giving us your real opinion about football. about actual football, even if it's about our strip. I don't even care if it's about it doesn't have to be tactics. Tell us what you think about the Arsenal strip. Tell us what you think about the stadium. Tell us about the actual statutes. But tell us what you think.
What's the favourite place you've ever been with your carer? You know, what's your favourite flavour of window? What like things that you know about?
That's all I say about that. Don't pick a narrative. It's very fucking boring.
Lee Gunner told me to wind you guys up. Lee Gunner doesn't know you exist. Lee Gunner doesn't even comment back on when you comment on his page. Lee Gunner doesn't care about you. Lee Gunner is trying to make a living. He's making a good living out of YouTube by getting people agitated. You know, that's what he does. That's his success. He doesn't care about you or me. He doesn't know I exist. It's okay. Lee Gunner told me to wind you guys up. In your fantasy world, maybe he did, but in the real world, nobody told you to wind me up. And if they did, they're hugely disappointed with you, and your performance has been a disgrace because you failed to wind me up, or Sean, or anyone else. You were getting really close there. Have an opinion. Let's hear your opinion. Let's talk to you like a human being. I can respect you even if I disagree with you. Let's get to the point where we find the real person behind the pretend persona. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a person. You're entitled to your opinion. You don't have to put up a fake ID. You don't have to pretend to be something you're not. Just be real, have your own opinion, we'll disagree, have a bit of banter, and get on with enjoying football. Because the thing that comes across is, even when we've been winning games, you haven't been enjoying it.
Yeah. That's the thing. What's the point of following something when the only thing you embrace is the downs? You know?
That's it. To live for the moment where you were proven right and Kai Havertz turns out to be shit.
Yeah.
On that, do you know, I looked back at the video, one of the first video you, me, and Lee Gunn, Football Dad's Army did about Kai Havertz, and I was going in on you for trying to defend Kai Havertz. I was anti Kai Havertz. I had forgotten how anti Kai Havertz I was, and I've desperately.
It's strong. It was strong. It still is. And there's loads of people far from convinced, and I can understand it. He's not pretty. Like I said, he's not Hollywood. But he's going to end up. I think he's going to end up being the glue that holds us together. Now, if we do end up with a Zubimendi and please some wingers that you actually are going to put on the pitch, that sort of thing. Maybe even some more defenders. Sorry, I'm being silly here. Then you know, I could see Havertz being someone that starts on the bench as often as he starts.
It's so on a knife edge, isn't it? I mean, if we win the Premier League or the Champions League, then Kai Havertz becomes part of that. And if the project doesn't reach that stage, if Arteta is sacked in a year's time or 6 months' time or whenever he's sacked, and a new manager comes in and doesn't rate Kai Havertz and sells him at a loss, he'll always be that player. Like, for me, Pepe, you know, like, was he as bad as everybody said he was? You know, it's in the end, it comes down to history is about the things you win, isn't it? You know, and
there's definitely precedent with Pepe. It was the price tag. He'd better be bloody brilliant. But anyway, Pepe ended up hanging around for a lot longer. And you made a comment about Trossard earlier on, it's interesting to me that Trossard has now spent 12 months at the club. And everyone's waving, okay, not before tonight. Tonight's after the match, tonight's a bad time to talk about it. But 12 months thereabouts, give or take, is about as much time as someone needs. Trossard had Premiership experience, Havertz Premiership experience, you know, etc., etc., etc. And Havertz, for me, I'd say slightly ahead of schedule with regards to how he's blending into the team. Slightly ahead. You know, what's he going to be like starting, you know, next September? I think he's going to be a real asset. You know, I do see that. He does give us that option we should have taken in retrospect tonight, you know, and he does bind the team together. He's a bit flumpy. He's a bit arms and legs.
I think I agree with what you just said a lot, because I think it gives you that grey area, doesn't it? On the one hand, it's not he's good or he's bad. It's we might just not have seen his best yet, and it's only been 6 months. but I'm so not sure about him even now. And a lot of it is to do with appearances. It's not seeing it. I just got Trossard on my new shirt. How dare you? Where's this gone? How dare he have a bad game? Arteta out. Oh, well, Arteta's gone. Did you not see the news? You might have been building some Lego, but yeah, Arteta's been sacked.
See, they charge by the letter. Think about how much cheaper the Pepe shirt is than the Trossard shirt.
Well, I just call him Tross.
The Troster.
Can't afford 4 letters is fine. I also I don't think I've ever had a name of a player on my shirt, so I've never.
I always used to go I had Edu. I had the Lee Gunner will like this. I had Edu.
Did you have Edu speaks facts?
I always went for the foreign players. So I had Gilberto and I had Edu. I had Reyes.
Reyes.
Yeah, I went for those guys all the time because the whole Spanish connection. Even though, of course,
if I was ever going, I used to like going to the matches and seeing what people put on the back of the shirts. It was funny, you know. 8 Tottenham, I 8 Tottenham, and stuff like that. You know,
I'm still trying to track down that Paul Lederson shirt. Yeah.
Did he ever have one?
Didn't need one. Need one.
I was there when John Jensen scored. Shirt.
Speaking of brown envelopes, Lee Gunner, do you know about that one? I hope you do. You probably don't, but there we go.
That's our heritage. That's our. I bet he does. No, I'm going to say I bet Lee Gunner speaks facts, knows about what a bung is. Otherwise, you know, who knows? I hope we've reached a point now where anyone who watching this later and you know has got to this point just before we wrap it up, and I think we should. Any of you, if you want to come on and have a debate, a disagreement, a heated debate, I'm up for it. I love them. Sean and I don't agree on everything. We've had plenty of disagreements, but it's not foundational to our friendship. It's not like I can't be your friend anymore because you think Kai Havertz was good value at 65 million. To which you would reply, I never actually said that. Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, I don't, Dan, I actually don't. Yes, but you implied it, which is just as bad.
By not calling him a son of a whore, yeah, because that's how it has to be black and white, right?
Yeah, I mean that's it. I think if anything good can come out of what's been it's just a pissy day. It was a pissy day. Everything went a little bit wrong all the way through the day. I was up very late last night because I released that video with my predictions, and at midnight I released it onto YouTube, and I'd used a clip of someone celebrating a goal and it blocked it. So I had to totally redo the bloody thing till 2 a.m. And then, you get 4.5 hours sleep. You've got to go to work, and everything, it was work, but everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And it was just pissing it down. Came home, looked forward to the match, and it's just something about when you
it was me. When I'm looking forward to a match for like a day or two, it's amazing how often I'm disappointed. If I'm like putting your kids to bed, oh god, the football's in, and turn it on. We scored 3 goals in the first half. But when I'm like, hey, everyone just piss off and leave me watch this match, is a good one. They always turn out to be shit,
well, clearly not always, because that would be you'd stop watching. But there is something to it and you know what? I hate the fact you've made such an incredibly good point so near the end. But do you think that affects the players? Do you think that their level of expectation, that it's the same thing for them, because when you're getting subbed off against Burnley on the 60th minute or something, now all you've got to look forward to is that trip to Porto. Declan Rice playing in the Champions League, the players in the Champions League music, if they get a win against Porto, all of this, does that weight of expectation mean that they just fluff their lines a bit? Is that where the age of someone like Rodri really comes into its own? Because he goes, it's Champions League, I'm used to this, I've done it. Our players aren't there yet. Maybe we do have to go. I just remember the Wenger years, and he had an amazing team to win the double in 97, 98. And they got to the Champions League, and these are international level players. Bergkamp, Adams, you know, I mean, I don't need to reel off the names. Vieira, as a young Vieira, still amazing. And they couldn't beat teams like Lens, Panathinaikos, and Dinamo Kiev, right? And I just feel like what you just said there, that looking forward to that anticipation, playing on your mind, thinking about it, the really, like, I love the stories about people like Aiden Hazard, who's on his phone 5 minutes before kickoff. And then they're like, right, well, we're going to do a tactical huddle. And he goes, what do you mean tactics? Just give me the ball. I'll score a goal. What are you on about? Tactics, only tactics. I'm going to beat these. These are shit, you know. And I don't think we've got that yet. I don't think we've got those players. And I think that painful process.
Any adjustment. We turned up, and you know, everyone's like, okay, give them space. You got to watch out. They're moving around. You know, people that watch us every week. And Porto go, right, we've never played them before. We've had a good look at them. You're going to snap at their heels, and so you get your heels snapped at. And you go, fair enough. Well, what's it? An experienced team going to go, don't care. Snap at my heels. Not a bother. We're going to carry on playing the way we're going to play. You're not going to change me. You're not going to change me. And that's probably what happened tonight to a degree.
And
referee assisted, mind you.
Yeah, listen, I take your point completely. But I think there is something, that's what experience is, isn't it? It's exactly what you're talking about. It's like when McEnroe's trying to wind up Bjorn Borg, and Bjorn Borg's like, I'm just gonna play this game, and then I'm gonna go and have a shower and a nice meal, and I might read a book. But you have a tantrum if you absolutely want it. It's just going to keep us here another 3 minutes. It's not really. And I think when I look at the City players, Kevin De Bruyne at that age, you know, you don't wind up players like that. But I don't think that our players got wound up. I thought Declan Rice was outstanding for not chomping on a second yellow card, because you know, there were times we
it's worth mentioning,
and so I think there is a level of experience there, but it's not blossomed yet. Odegaard's 24. I think his temperament's great, but I don't. Maybe it's because it's on television and you can't get, you know, like when you're actually at a match, you see more of this. But I don't see him snapping at players and barking. There was a lot of pointing them into directions they're supposed to go. But I want a Tony Adams on that pitch. I want someone to go.
Exactly. I was going to say Adams. Yeah. Sometimes you need someone to come along and roar at people.
Because if Gabriel was Tony Adams, he would have gone up to Saliba for that when he missed a pen. He goes, if you're not up for this, mate, get yourself subbed off. But you don't play like that on this, you know. And that's not me trying to be harsh, but I think all of us at some point need a bit of love and kindness to get the best performances. But we also need to know that we can't get away with anything but our best. And somebody needed to go over to Martinelli and go, you're trying a bit too hard.
Exactly, yeah. Not for the first time, yeah. You are. We can tell you're a little bit bouncy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're all right. Did you have an orange squash before the match? You know you're not allowed orange squash. It's like someone a bit. And I don't think Arteta's the finished article as a man manager. I don't think anyone ever said he was. You know, so when people go, oh, this is a young manager and we should have a really experienced one, there's advantages and disadvantages. The advantage to having a young manager is that, frankly, he has the energy, and because look, when you look at what Klopp's just said in retiring, he's like, I can't keep doing this. He's done 8 years, and I can't do it anymore. It's too much. Living with someone like Guardiola means you have to put in the same hours as Guardiola, and the man's just insane, you know. And I think
Denilson came out today and was talking about Wenger. You know, he said we used to, you know, train hard, but we had to sleep. We were on orders to sleep. Turn up at 10. Wenger was here from 7.
You know? There's a really lovely story. I do like these stories from Gary Neville, and he's on fucking everything, so you can't miss them really. But he was talking about how when they'd lost the Champions League final, and it was the off season, it was like early June, and he had to go and take some boots back or something, and he thought, well, I'll go in on a Sunday morning because there won't be anyone there. And he went 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and as he was going to the training ground, there's only one light on, and it's Alex Ferguson's light. And he goes, that was the man. He was there all the time. He knew every inch of that place. It was his life's work. And they pay for that because loved ones and families, and they suffer that. But that's the dedication it takes to be a living legend like Alex Ferguson, like Pep Guardiola. And everyone else who's trying to live with them has to put that level of energy in. And whether I think whether you love Arteta or not, you can see he's putting that level of work in.
Yeah, Yeah, he is. No, the commitment's there. The commitment's definitely there. You know, he's learning on the job, as it was always going to be the case. I'm the point I want to make to everyone that, you know, Arteta in, Arteta out, this, that, and the other. There's a really important point that no one. It sounds like a real throwaway point, but actually a really important point. Why are you Arteta in? Because he's our manager. Right? It sounds like nothing, but it means something. He's actually our manager at the moment. If it becomes painfully obvious that he's nowhere near good enough, which is obviously not the case because we finished second last year and we're in the Champions League at the moment, then that's the case. Right now, he is our manager. Until he's not our manager, let's support him. You said that about Havertz when even though you weren't keen on him, he's got the Arsenal shirt. Support your team, guys.
It's mad. How right you are, because like for me, that is a key thing. It's like I've had my chance to say I didn't like Havertz. The video that I was talking about was before we'd officially signed him. So Lee's even harder on him than I am. He goes right on him, goes, no, I don't rate him, he's shit, he's rubbish. And to be honest, I'm totally agreeing with him at that point. But then he puts a shirt on and you go, look, we get enough shit from everybody else's fans. Look how many people have written us off on the title. Oh, well, Arsenal can't win it because they haven't won it recently. So you're like, all right, then that's logical.
No one can, because Man City have won it, you know, nearly 4 times.
From now on, it will only ever be Man City. Get used to it. But we're not in a conversation. People will say, well, you're not really in the title race because you bottled last season. It goes, no, that's why we're not in last season's title race. This is a different season. You know, oh well, you've only beaten West Ham. You still need a striker. We scored as many goals as Man City. Yeah, but you need a striker. Well, how comes they don't need a striker? They've got a striker, right? Well, they've got the world's most expensive striker, and we haven't, and we've scored the same number of goals. Yeah, but they'll win the league. Can't argue the narrative. It's logic like that.
Discussion. It's not even. I'm not even sure if it classes in my definition of talking. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, no, it isn't. It's sort of grunting at each other, isn't it? It's real sort of tribal, sort of simian kind of, you know, hitting drums and bones together and that sort of thing. It is.
Well, you were saying it earlier when you were talking to whichever iteration of Lee Gunner Speaks Facts was on at the time. You're saying, look, don't just pick a tribe and stick with it. There is no need for that. Like we're already in a tribe. We're already picked the bloody tribe. You're not a Chelsea fan, or at least assume you're not. Therefore, when we're attacked by Chelsea fans or Tottenham fans, it's a much better look for us not to be busily trying to maul each other first. You know,
yeah.
It's like
Absolutely. Tottenham fans that doesn't mean we all have to agree with each other. You know what I mean? But also the other thing is, don't go for the final point. Let's talk about all the points that lead up to you deciding whether Arteta should be in, right? Because that's the point of the pyramid point. Let's talk about all the rest of the pyramid. You know, there's lots and lots of bits of stone there, and they all need discussion before we get to that top point of should we change our manager or not. You know, all the things like we were discussing tonight, like, you know, is this working? Is that his best position? Would Lokonga be a good person to keep hold of and have there playing as backup for left 8? You know, next season, for example, is he showing enough? You know, do we think that Zubimendi is going to be playing, you know, as a double pivot with Rice, or they're going to be backing each other up?
You're really convinced by Zubimendi coming. I'm like, I know you're out there, so I'm kind of deferring to. I'm still a little bit. I know that it's been the hot topic, but I still don't really get it. I'm
not saying I get it. I'm just saying, you know, no smoke without fire in spades. You know,
but by that token, we'd have signed Benzema or Mbappe or
I mean, I agree. Yeah, it could turn out.
I don't think it is. I mean, I'm not saying that.
My feeling is there's something to it. This one, I don't know. Can't tell you why, but my feeling is that maybe it's the Sociedad connection. Yeah. Maybe it's the way he plays, or this, that, and the other. Maybe it's the fact that he wants to get Partey off the books.
Well, Partey's gone anyway. Partey's going anyway. I mean, and
Juninho maybe won't stay either. And then we probably do need Zubimendi there, don't we?
We do need a player in there. We have a couple of years to wait for Miles Lewis-Skelly if he's going to be that player, and I don't think Patino is quite right. You know, because as much as a romantic in me says, you know, he's one of the brightest talents out of Hale End, and you go, Yeah, he's playing at Swansea though. Do you know what I mean? It isn't as though Barcelona were like, can we have Charlie Patino if you're not using him? You know, so there's always that. And I was disappointed when we lost Sousa because I thought he had promise. But then you look at, he went, look where he's gone. They've loaned him out. It just, the academy and all that. I think
we have to understand that, you know, while Hell End has got better and we've got, you know, two very good players out of it. You know, we've had a lot of youth disappointments. You know, what's his name? Ainsley. No, Ainsley Smith-Niles. He's finally coming good now. I mean, how long are we waiting for that to happen?
I don't know if I'd quite go that far.
He's playing quite well, apparently he's playing
quite well. He's played like 3 or 4 good games.
How old is he now? He must be 25, 26, something like that.
Yeah, I would guess that.
Exactly. Too late. You had your chance.
Well, no, I think for me that because of the utterly shambolic situation at Bayern, which has been a preoccupier for me. Like I really think there is something in this that relates directly to the experience we're having, because you know, I mean, apart from you must have seen you might even have been you that sent it, posted it. You know, the picture of the trophy that you win in the Bundesliga for being top scorer. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it wasn't me that sent it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just think this is all too funny. We're living in a simulation. This is all too well scripted. You know, like Eric Dyer and Harry Kane go to Bayern, a team that I found boring at times, even as much as I really enjoyed Bayern. But you find it boring. Oh, we win everything. And then last season, Tuchel, I really thought was going to fuck it because he was shit. And the players don't like him. The fans don't like him. And then basically he fell over the line because Dortmund just totally just in the most mind-numbing way. No, I mean, that is, I hate to use the term because of the association with us, but it is the biggest bottle job in history. You know, like all you've got anyway. But then I watched them play against the team that in Germany they always called Leverkusen. It's always called Leverkusen or Witzekusen, which just means joke Kusen, because they've never won it. And it happens to be on what we call Fasching, or in different parts of Germany they call it different things. Carnival, you know, the carnival before Lent. I'm sure you have it in Spain as well, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So everyone dresses up as something, and on Bayern Munich travel to Leverkusen, right, the joke club of the Bundesliga, and all the fans are dressed up as the Pope or Elvis, and Bayern get battered 3-0, and it's just never even a close match. You know, there's not, like, even with all their great players on the pitch and just not gelling at all. Then they go away to Lazio, a team that's so bobbins in the Champions League. They weren't even trying to score, and they still scored, and Bayern didn't, and they took an L there. And then to make it even worse, they went to Bochum, who are Burnley in Germany, and they got beaten 3-2. And he goes, those 3 results in a row were the direct result of sacking a manager that had a vision, how he wanted it to be. And he didn't fall out. The fans didn't want him gone, but he fell out with the board. They then sacked the board that sacked Nagelsmann. And they're in this situation now. It's this how quick it goes. Let's say Stan Kroenke.
Who can you sack?
Stan Kroenke wakes up tomorrow having had a bit of a bad turn or something and just decides this isn't good enough, sacks Arteta and brings in Tuchel. It's not inconceivable.
Proven winner, mate.
Proven winner. Won the Champions League. He's won the Champions League. He's won the Liga in France with Paris Saint-Germain. He's won the Bundesliga with Germany.
What more do you want?
World Club Cup with Chelsea. He is a proven winner. That's what I fear. I fear that because meanwhile, the guy that is being mooted to replace, I think it should be Hansi Flick, but the guy that they're looking at, Xabi Alonso. Will he take Bayern or Liverpool? Because this is a young up-and-coming manager who's won the league. And I say, well, how's he that different from Arteta? If Pep Guardiola had the kind of shit mental, if Pep Guardiola left Man City and they brought in someone like Tuchel and Arteta won the league, I would still think it was an enormous achievement. But I think coming second to Pep Guardiola is as difficult as beating Tuchel's Bayern Munich.
You're touching on it though, you know, and you know, having kids in the house as we do, we see it. You see that pure, you know, human nature in a child. at Christmas time, having small children as I do, it's very unrewarding. You have, like, let's just say, for example, 3 presents of similar sizes, similar shininess, yeah? And you give them one and they open it and it's just what they always want. It's amazing. They will spend 0 time looking at that gift. They will go straight on to the next one because the value is in what you have not got, not on what you have got immediately. And that's why people have got this fallacy of thinking that someone is better. You've touched it rather well in the past, a similar sort of thing. The best thing for your reputation is being injured, because when you're not playing, you're brilliant. All that sort of thing. So who was on the bench today? Like Emil Smith-Rowe's incredible now. He's Pele. And that's sort of how it is, and that's how it goes with managers. They just change as good as a rest. No, it's actually not always. Change is something you do when you have to finally admit that you cannot beat a dead horse any longer. We're nowhere near that.
And the proof of what you're saying is that the clubs who have most often gotten rid of managers are not the clubs with the most success.
Absolutely. There we go. But Barcelona's changing manager all the time at the moment, and guess what? They're doing shit. But when they stuck with Guardiola for ages, they won loads.
Chelsea is probably the exception under Roman Abramovich, because they would sack a manager, bring in another one, sack a manager, bring another one, and they had huge success. But I think but it's an era that's changed. You can't beat Chelsea in 2024 because they would just spend what they wanted. You can't do that now. This January transfer window wasn't shit because there's no money in the clubs. It was shit because they're not allowed to spend their money. And I think it's one of the most detrimental things to happen to football, because when when Chelsea aren't spending £1 billion, the clubs that would have been selling them the players aren't getting the £1 billion to invest in things that might make those teams better. I'm doing a video over the next week about why I sincerely hope that Man City are found innocent of all 115 charges, because I think this is the end of football if we don't address this problem with the nonsense around profit and sustainability. It has nothing to do with sustainability. No one can seriously think that a club backed by Saudi Arabia is likely to go bust. Do you know what I mean? Like, literally nobody could ever think that, when they have hundreds of trillions of dollars and they go, there was a really great documentary about this when I watched about Man City and obviously Sheikh Mansour, and he's like, yeah, $1 billion sounds like a lot of money, but it isn't. And you go, that's what you're dealing with. Oh, so put another $1 billion on there. Just build another team, whatever. Just build a team that's $1 billion. Okay, well, we've got $1 billion. I'll give it $1 billion. There you go. There's your bit. So it's not about sustainability. It is about, and it's not about leveling the playing field, because it's not doing that either. It's about football fans desperately hoping that there's some way that Man City can be dethroned. Man City won their trophies on a pitch. That's where they won.
Here's a question for you, going off on that tangent, which I find intriguing. Brentford and Brighton, let's ask their opinions, because this is an evolution, right? They've got these big money clubs, and now we've got these algorithmic clubs that are basically there that make more money out of bringing in players, playing them, and selling to the big clubs than they do gate receipts.
Yeah. So Tony Bloom owns a sports betting company, and I've totally forgotten the name of it suddenly. But they own their own data. Midtjylland and Brentford are run on a very similar model, and Arsenal owns its own data company as well. So these are not isolated cases, by the way. Brighton and Brentford are able to play players that top 6 clubs couldn't play. So they are able to give a Stupinian a chance. They are able to play in Cissé, and they are able to play these players. People always look at Brighton and they look at the successes. If you look through the squad, Brighton's squad, they do very well, and the data that they look for helps them to make really good decisions. But the other thing that helps them to make good decisions is it's a shallow policy. So they invest in a lot of people, and the ones that come up, because of their profile as a club and the fact they're playing the Premier League and they've got a good manager, they're able to sell them for a lot of money. But it comes back to the point I'm making about why stopping Man City and Chelsea spending money has a bigger detrimental effect on clubs like Brentford and Brighton than it does on clubs like Manchester City and Chelsea. Because Manchester City and Chelsea will figure out a way to get around it.
You're talking about trickle-down economics, aren't you?
I'm talking about the very real market for players. That if you said to Chelsea, you can't spend 100 million on Moses Caicedo, who's most affected by that? It's not Chelsea. They go, oh, well, we just won't.
No, it's definitely Brighton, especially considering how he's been playing.
Cucurella, 60 million. Moses Caicedo. McAllister, they did a really honourable thing with McAllister and they let him go for a relatively small fee. But, I joke about this with a guy at work all the time who's a Brighton fan, a season ticket holder. And I was like, there's a few players of yours that I would have in a heartbeat. And I think Evan Ferguson will go. But I tell you, the most underrated player, in my opinion, no one talks about is Pascal Gross. He's just outstanding every week. Outstanding every week. So who benefits from stopping teams like Manchester City spending huge amounts of money? And you go, the argument is that they have an unfair advantage because they've got huge money. That's right. That is true. But they spend their money, and how they spend their money is the most important thing. If they spend it as stupidly as Chelsea, then, Shakhtar Donetsk, they're like, I can't believe they gave us that much money for Mudryk. Look, don't get me wrong. I think Enzo Fernandez and Moses Caicedo in 2 or 3 years' time could be the best midfield pairing. But you don't stick 240 million quid's worth of talent together if the two of them have not played 200 Premier League games between them. So who benefits? What is the real purpose of profit and sustainability in this country? The avowed aim of profit and sustainability is to prevent clubs from going bust. Because when they go bust, it's bad for the economy. It's it's driven by the government. It's not driven by the FA. The FA don't want it. So this idea that it somehow levels the playing field, we know it doesn't, because there's just too many ways around it. Man City will tell you till they're blue in the face that they pay Erling Haaland £300,000 a week. Everyone knows he's on 950. And how do I know that? Because he'd be a fucking moron if he wasn't. Because Paris Saint-Germain would give him that. Everyone's now going, can you believe Mbappe's on $1 million a week? Yeah, I can. If a Qatari billionaire wants to win and comes in and buys Paris Saint-Germain and says, we're going to win the Champions League, they spend the money to do it. They spent 220 on Neymar. They brought Messi in. They weren't paying Messi in chocolate eggs either. We know that no matter how hard you try and balance football, like Formula 3, everyone's got to have the same car. Unless you have wage caps, unless you have things that that aren't even ethical in a modern business climate, then you are not going to balance the books.
So how do you stop people from going bust then? How do you put in
regulations? You don't. And since when has capitalism concerned itself with the natural flow of the economy? The Kondratiev curve, it's called, that capitalism starts. So the really short story, Stalin decides that he's got all these brilliant economists. They've got brilliant universities. He gets one of them who's the most exalted of all of them, Kondratiev, and he says, I want you to work out a way of predicting when capitalism is going to fail, because Marx points to the idea that capitalism will fail in a certain way. And he's like, well, why don't you just predict when it's going to happen, and then we can use that. And Kondratiev goes away and does the work and finds a thing that has now become known as Kondratiev curve, which is that capitalism is incredibly elastic. Free market capitalism is incredibly elastic. And what happens is it goes through these cycles. So Kondratiev in the 1950s, early 1950s, predicts the recession in the 70s. He predicts the recession in 2008 because he goes, if you follow this curve, it will take you to ebbs and flows within capitalism. Things go bust. So the Austrian school of economists that I follow, they say Keynes will tell you that if there's a recession, you need to spend money and get the economy moving again. And the counter to that is the Austrian school who say, no, a recession is a hangover caused by a bubble. It's the natural consequence of an overinflated market. And what Kondratiev proves almost conclusively to the agreement of the School of Economics, which is very hard to do, is that capitalism will not fail. It will continue to morph and change, but it will essentially stay the same. So, of course, Stalin has him executed for that. And it's probably the silliest thing he ever did. But we know it as the Kondratiev curve. What's happened with the meltdown of the economy and the increasing credit balloon is that we now have no way of preventing this huge collapse. So what did we do during lockdown? We paid people to stay home and not work. That's not capitalism anymore. When the banks failed in 2008, we gave them more money. So, oh, you've lost all your money. We don't do that in capitalism. Now, so I'm saying is when a football club goes bust, it goes bust. Like Woolworths goes bust, or like any other.
Go bust or not. It's people say, "Well, I've got a right to." It comes down to the reason it's not free is because bread and circuses. They're thinking, "Look, we need people to have this distraction. It's the main distraction."
They will. Look what happened to Wimbledon. Wimbledon were bought by a clown who decided that there was much more chance of them getting a stadium in Milton Keynes, and there was a really good catchment area. He did this in there's a phrase which is, it's not whether there's a gap in the market, it's whether there's a market in the gap. And he looked at Milton Keynes and he went, there's a massive gap in the market. There's all these people that don't have any football to watch. Let's put a stadium there and put football there and they'll all come and watch it. And did that and realised, no, the reason there's not a football stadium in Milton Keynes is because people in Milton Keynes don't watch football. So now there's the MK Dons in League Two and Wimbledon, who got left behind, who had to fight their way up through 9 pre-league divisions to get there, have caught up with them. If the people of Wimbledon are so desperate to have a football team, it doesn't matter if their club goes bust. Similarly, Portsmouth went bust. These clubs go bust, and it's terribly tragic for the fans. I get it. Life is shit. Yeah. Life is shit. If you worked at a steel plant and your steel plant gets shut down, it's shit. Life is sometimes going to be shit, and it's never going to be fair. The idea that the government can meddle in football to a degree where we can somehow have some, and it's ridiculous. Look at the teams that are being punished for profit and sustainability. The two teams that have really ruined the Premier League are Nottingham Forest and Everton. Thank God they've been punished. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is going on?
Forest especially. I've had enough of Forest pushing around with their big checks.
Just going out and buying Pep.
I'm tired of it. I really am.
Bringing in Pep Guardiola and giving him unlimited. Oh no, hang on.
Yeah, buying all our best players off us.
Yeah, Steve Cooper. They could never have afforded him. This idea, but it becomes a narrative. It's people just say it. They go, "Oh, Man City are cheating." How are they cheating? Well, financial irregularities. Every large company cheats. Boots pay no tax. Tesco's pay no tax. That's what big companies do. They're not real entities. People, they do all this anthropomorphizing of, well, NatWest is a loyal, friendly. No, it's not. It's a business. It makes money or it doesn't make money, and it couldn't give a shit about anything else. Man City, Chelsea, these clubs are owned by people either who see it as a way of raising their profile. The Saudis are investing in football clubs to do sports washing. Billionaires buy clubs. I'm not here to decide why a billionaire wants to own a club. I think Todd Bowley is a really intelligent investment broker, and he realizes that the money about to flow into football is going to double the asset wealth that he has if he can stay relevant, not win trophies. He doesn't give a shit about winning trophies, but if Chelsea stay relevant, then they will be worth twice what he paid for them. And there isn't an investor in earth who could turn away from double your money investment. I wouldn't. Would you? I mean, if we gave Scott,
not the moment.
We gave Scott a chance to double the amount of Lego he has, he would take it, right?
We're now living in a post pandemic, post recession world where interest only applies to debt, not to savings. There's a completely two-tiered thing. So people getting, and the stock market's not far off being found out. And
it was found out in 1929. That's the reality of it.
Well, it's got worse with things like crypto and so on, and not even solid gold is a great.
I could get, obviously I'm already way deep into this, but with crypto, at least what you have is an effort to take currencies away from what we call fiat currencies. That are, like the idea of a currency is it should really be backed by something. I should be able to take my pound note to a bank and literally it's supposed to be worth £1 of something, right? That goes away. Now you have governments just print it. So, oh Christ, well, everyone's staying at home. Well, let's just pay them to stay home. We don't have the money. We'll just print more. Okay, that's a good idea. We'll do that. Inflation, and then we have this long period where interest rates are zero. So there's no lever for fighting inflation unless you put interest payments up. The reason the interest payments haven't gone up in America up until they absolutely had to was because they spend $1 trillion a year on their defense. And if the interest rates had gone up by a full %, it would have taken their spend on the interest payments on the loans they have over their defense budget. Can you imagine the amount of money America spends on its interest repayments exceeding what it spends on its military might?
I don't think we're far off that in the UK, if indeed it hasn't happened already. I
Well,
think
we
it's
just
about
don't
to
spend as
overtake
much.
education.
Yeah, we don't spend anything like what the Americans do on our defense. So
True.
what you're actually looking at.
Unfortunately, our interest payments are right up there now.
Yeah, but they're not, and this is one of the frustrations I have, because if I'm not a Keynesian, but the Keynesians will tell you should build hospitals and things that your people need so that you have a health population so they can make money and pay tax and rebuild the economy. There's a lot of merit to that argument. But the argument against it is we're too broke. And then you point out that the National Health Service was built after the Second World War, where actually debt was greater than it is now per capita. So really, it is possible to still spend your way out and build projects for the future. But nowadays, with our political cycle being 5 years, if we're lucky, people never do projects that go over 5 years because they're not going to get any credit for them. Ken Livingstone invented.
As a matter of fact, there's a law precedent that tells you that these long-term projects only happen in poverty. Look at the New Deal.
Well, that's the arch proof of the Keynesian ideal was the New Deal politics. But what has since been discussed ad nauseum by economists is that did it really shorten the recession, or was the recession going to end anyway? So if you listen to the Austrian school, then they will tell you that recessions don't last any longer than bubbles do. That these are just waves. That's all they are.
An interesting thought. So I think there's a lot of social engineering in this Keynesian idea. I think it's
all it is. It's huge, because it says that the government has to invest money in order to get money moving across the population. Now, what's fascinating about that is, like, as you know, I've long been an advocate of the idea that everyone should be given money. So universal income, universal basic income, so that everybody gets money, so that they don't have to live hand to mouth, but people are opposed to it because they find it objectionable that a poor person should just be paid for sitting around.
Because they're worried about lack of motivation. Yeah,
right. But whenever it's been tried, you see the opposite. You see, like, for example, if you took the really healthy welfare state of Sweden in, say, the 60s and 70s, it led to entrepreneurialism. It led to things like IKEA and Volvo, because people will try businesses knowing that if it fails, they're not going to die. In America, you see the opposite. You see people taking on 2 jobs that can't afford to take time out to retrain because there's no welfare net. If you don't work, you don't get healthcare, and if something happens, you're screwed. And so that shrinks down the growth of the economy. If you want to speed up growth in an economy, don't make your people poorer. The Victorians tried that, and because they had all this money coming in from the empire, it looked like it made sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all. You wouldn't try it at home. You wouldn't start starving your kids to make them work harder. And you shouldn't really do that with a mass population, because what happens is you make it more likely there'll be a revolution, and revolutions are always bad. They're never good. There's never been a good revolution. If there has, and you know of one, let me know. Anyone watching this far, just leave it in the
American revolutions probably slightly kicks the trend a little bit, if you want to call it that. War of Independence, revolution, whatever.
I'd have a problem with it being defined as a revolution, because it's not so much a system of government as an overthrowing of an occupying. So that's different.
All about perspective, but yeah, I can understand both perspectives. But
it's also worth arguing that it doesn't. The War of Independence does not necessarily lead to prosperity better than they had before, and there's a lot of bloodshed. And then ultimately, you could trace a direct line between that and the Civil War, which is, I don't think it's easy to argue that's a good, because if you're going to call the War of Independence a revolution, you probably have to call the American Civil War a revolution as well. And I don't think one happens without the other. Therefore, I could still say that the War of Independence was a bad thing. There were better ways of dealing with it. They didn't have to go to war. I'm not saying that definitively there can't be any revolutions. The revolution in Haiti, where the slaves overthrew the colonials, is probably one of the examples of a good revolution. Anytime slaves overthrow someone, I'm pretty much behind that. That's always a good thing. Slavery is unconscionable and has to be ended. But in the context of what we're talking about, a poorly run economy with very high levels of poverty and a wage disparity or a wealth disparity between certain groups leads almost always inexorably to the violent overthrow of the system. But what follows it isn't calm, sensible, measured governance. It's the people who tear down the structure don't have anything to replace it with. They just they're just done.
Well, there's that. There's another angle which I've kind of thought about a lot. There are a certain class of person which are all over the place. They what I call ambitious mediocrities. People that don't have any particular talent, but they have burning ambition. There are many people in history that could be described as that, but I won't start.
Robespierre, Hitler, Stalin.
Those were some of the names I had in my mind.
Yeah, I mean they are.
These were
Lenin.
Not fantastic. Yeah, I'd agree with Lenin too. These were not incredible people, but they were incredibly strong with their ambition. And in these situations, when there is a change of the guard, a change in power, they're already there, as Stalin was.
This kind of takes us. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think there's a way of tying this into the cult of, let's say, people like Lee Gunner, who people follow because he's so sure about what he's saying in a world where you have these people like Andrew Tate who come out and say something and they're so sure of themselves that people who don't know what to think will go, well, he must know what he's talking about.
Charisma, right?
Yeah. And so they go, and they're never wrong. And so, like, it doesn't matter if they are wrong or not wrong, they're never wrong. So they build these followings. And ultimately, it gets to the end of like the Third Reich and everyone goes, what the fuck were we thinking? And you go, you were just swept away. This man seemed so certain of what he said. Yeah, but then you look back at what he said and you realize, I mean, like, we read Mein Kampf in history, like, and I read it as part of A-level piece that I was doing on Austro-Marxism. And I remember reading it when I was younger and going, this is just drivel. It's just stupid. There's nothing in this that shapes the world. But it wasn't that. It was the thousands of people following and wanting to be part of something. It's the same thing that made me so attracted to being an Arsenal fan. The first time I went, I was in a crowd. They all seemed to know what was going on. They all had the answers. As long as I did, I was part of this group, this family, this tribe. We all want to belong somewhere. And if you're unlucky, that's Tottenham. But, if you're really unlucky.
Security. And that's why we find ourselves a little bit odd one out in that way, where we like to be following a team, but we like to approach it in an individualistic way. And some people, like people that have come on the show tonight, for example, they don't get that dichotomy, and we do get it, but we're not trying to force it on anyone else. It's like, if you don't understand where we're coming from, yeah, we are Arsenal fans. We'll never be anything else, but we're going to do it our own way. No one's going to tell us how to be an Arsenal fan.
Yeah. Don't need anyone's help or advice on it, and I'll come and go as I please as well. So exactly. For a period there when I was playing
poker, the right to be wrong. I reserve the right to be wrong about this, that, or the other. But each time I'm wrong, I'll make you this one promise. Each time I'm wrong about something, I will learn a little bit. I'll make it slightly less likely to be wrong the next time. After having learned that I was a bit of a dick.
You can do. But then I think, and not to, I'm saying this because I genuinely believe it, but I'm not aware of a time where you would have stuck your neck out on the line that much anyway. Maybe I would have, I can't think of any, but we tend not to say things in such definitive ways. I was rabidly against the idea of Kai Havertz joining the club, but then immediately just thought, well, but keep my mouth shut, because who knows? I don't know he's definitely going to be shit. When Carl was on the show a couple of weeks ago going, clip it, we're not going to win the league, I was thinking, I wouldn't really do that, because you're just going to look silly. The things I'm certain about are too few for me to bang on about them. I did this whole video, as you watched it, the video predicting, I think that the league will be, Man City will win, that they will likely have 87 points and we will be second on 85 and Liverpool on 84. I don't know that. I'm not sure.
So best guess at this stage. Look at the supercomputer you're talking about, right? It's like, okay, we're like Arsenal are like, 3%, it's like to win. Then we win a couple of games, beat Liverpool. So what? So what?
Yeah.
It was right then, but now it's more right.
Yeah. Listen, I've said this to you last week as well. I always say this because I think if you really want to know who's, like, when people say, "Oh, do you think Arsenal could win the Champions League?" Go, well, the bookmakers say we're 7-1. Probably longer odds tonight after that shit show, but that they make their money on predicting stuff. They put their money on it. Like some bloke in a pub who goes, "I don't think you've got a chance," and you go, "Put 100 quid on it then." I took a 10 quid bet off the Brighton fan today. He goes, I think Liverpool are going to win the league. I went, I'll have a tenner on that with you if you pay me even money. He went, no. I said, yeah, you know, you've got odds of 3-1, but you're offering even money bet. Like, I have to take that bet. I'm a poker player. I can't not take a good value bet. You know, if I take this bet with you often enough, I'll have more money than you. But sticking your neck on the line and saying, I know something's going to happen is inherently stupid because it's not happened yet. That's why I got so irritated with Lee Gunner Speaks Facts, calling himself Speaks Fact, because they haven't happened yet. So they can't be fact. They might be what you think is going to happen, but they're not facts.
They're not facts. And on top of the whole thing, making a prediction, it's all about presentation. I don't mind you making a prediction. I don't mind hearing your reckons. If there were no reckons, there'd be no YouTube. It's, you know, there'd be no Twitter, there'd probably be no Facebook. These are where people put their opinions down. But just all you've got to do is phrase them as opinions. That's all you've got to do. Presentation. Don't tell me. Don't be like when we were at school and we were having an argument. So, well, I think this. Well, I know that. You know, so that's just hubris, and it's really annoying. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I reckon that Kai Havertz this season will end up in the double figures of goals and will have provided more than 5 assists, for example. And you go, no, I don't think he will, actually. I think will score 8. You go, oh, okay. What should we do? You know
I think there's another way of approaching that very same discussion, because you can just say, for that to be the case, he would have to score a goal every game from now to the end of the season. And that makes it seem less likely. It's a different way of framing it.
Sure, but that's if I was serious about that. I'm just coming up with, for instance.
I know. I mean, but I'm saying I'm approaching this in a way that you would approach this, rather than going, you're wrong. I go, okay.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. Like
that's not with counting the count that he, you know, doesn't look very assured in front of goal. Let's understand that.
He doesn't seem like a natural goal scorer per se. The 3 goals he scored a season for Chelsea indicate somewhat strongly that, particularly him running in on goal and everyone going, well, who's around him?
Yeah. And so it turns out that the crossbar challenge did give us a bit of insight. They forgot to give him a banjo, unfortunately.
They do say that he's one of the most technically gifted players in the squad, and it does rankle me that this season he's had 1 assist. And I think he should have had a 4 or 5. I mean, it's just that people didn't score. I've seen a few people flump chances of him. I've seen him in perfect scoring positions like Saka. You know, the team, we were winning. We won 5-0 anyway, but one of those, you remember Saka after the game said he wasn't happy. You know, he missed a couple of chances. Yeah, he did miss a couple.
One of them, he could have squared it 6-yard box for a tap-in, which absolutely no guarantee would have been a goal. But he was there. He was there. He has played.
Well, this is what's fascinating about Tuchel's last interview. I mean, if I wanted him gone before he started, so I'm biased anyway, but he came out after the Bochum game and he did exactly what you don't want a manager doing. He goes, well, we had brilliant XG. You know, we just didn't score our chances. I mean, that shouldn't happen. I don't know how we lost that game. We were much the better team. And you go, mate, you just lost to Bochum, right? Have a bit of humility. Come out and go. So what he actually said was, I've never seen a greater disparity between the way the team trains and the way the team plays on the pitch. Because in training, we're always passing it to Harry Kane and he's always shooting and scoring. And in the pitch, we don't seem to pass it to Harry Kane. And you go, God, well, we need to speak to someone about that. Thomas, who do we talk to about that? Who could get these players to play a bit like they do on a train? If only they had a leader, someone who managed them. You know, it's just like you just wanted him gone so badly. And then, you know, then they came out on Sunday and said he's not going, but with the caveat till the end of the season. And it's like, brilliant. But, you know, the Bayern board came out, Uli Hoeneß came out and said he's holding Driesen came out and said, I'm holding the players responsible for the results at the end of the season. He's not the manager now, he's leaving. So you guys better win us the Bundesliga or the Champions League. You go, God, that's the stupidest thing you can say, isn't it? Because the players go, well, it'll be my fault, will it? Oh yeah, and what will happen to me? Well, we will be angry with you, and go and maybe sell me to a club, like, because we could get Joshua at start. Do you remember last season in the summer where Lee Fortbudad's army was going? We could sign Joshua Kimmich, and I was like, he's not going anywhere, mate. He's Bayern through and through. He looks like he's leaving now. Joshua Kimmich is off, and that's massive. He'd be exactly the sort of player that we should go and buy. You think, him and Rice in the midfield together, just forget about it. If we desperately want to go and sign Zubimendi, fine. But Zubimendi is no Kimmich, And there's players like Musiala and Serge Gnabry, who we famously let go for next to nothing, and became one of the best players in the world, and played in the sextuple Bayern, winning everything. He's going. He's a freebie now. He'll be a freebie. We could bring him back. He could definitely play on the wings.
Yeah, so I imagine you would play. Well, he's a right winger, isn't he? So
he's played on the left as well. I mean, he's a bit of a versatile. I think it wouldn't be great if we went out and did what we did last summer, 2 summers ago. We bought a couple of players with experience, because there's also this movement now saying, is it time to sell Jesus and Zinchenko? And you go, why?
No.
Yeah,
no, they're saying, it's like, what is it? Another narrative. It's enough of getting the Man City cast-offs. They do us no good. It's that they got us to where we are now, you divs.
Yeah, because when we bought them, we weren't sure we were going to qualify for Europe. And now that we're in the last 16 of the Champions League, it's not good enough.
Yeah. And we've outgrown them in a year. No, I've said for a long time, the one reason why I would be up for buying a striker, though only a top-notch striker, would be that Jesus could then be utilised on the wings, when needed, as well as also sometimes playing striker. He can play across the front three, and I think he's a real jack in the box in any of those positions. And he is one of the only people with enough class for you to say, let's give Saka half on the bench. Let's put his feet up and put someone else on.
I think you're and there's more to more intelligence. I mean, also what you're saying is, like, simply put, sometimes Jesus will be playing up front because he'll be in form. And if we went and signed Victor Osimhen, who I'm not sure I want at the club, I don't think he is. I think I wouldn't necessarily turn him down. But players don't always play as well as they. Do you know what I mean? It's not like Championship Manager where you put him up there and he always plays well. Well, actually, in Championship Manager was realistic enough to accept that there would be form fluctuations. So sometimes Saka would be right in form, and other times, like tonight, he wouldn't be. And then you might go, okay, well, we've got Serge Gnabry on the bench, bring him on. I don't know. My only slight concern is, as I've said ad nauseum now, is Arteta ever going to be happy with the bench? It just seems to me like he has his first 11 in mind. And, last season he didn't rate Tierney, and he didn't rate so many of the players that have gone now. Tavares, Lukonga's, but now he doesn't rate the players that he's given contracts to and extended, like Nelson and Nketiah. And you go, when did you fall out of love with these guys? Because for most of us, Eddie Nketiah hasn't looked good enough for a while now. But I didn't give him a contract in the number 14 shirt. So I can sit here and go, yeah, I don't think Eddie Nketiah is good enough. And no one can say, well, what'd you give him the 14 shirt for and 110 grand a week? I didn't. I wouldn't have. But we've still had offers of 30 and 40 million for him. We could take that money.
Well, I think we probably will this summer, I expect.
Well, why not take it in January if he's got no chance of playing?
We have to get a striker who is able to play with his back to goal as well as pushing the line. That's a thing. It's pretty difficult to find.
You're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is, in fact, I completely agree with you. But what I'm saying is that it's a moot point because Eddie Nketiah gets like 5 minutes every 6 games. So you could have no one on the bench. You take the 30 million and not replace him, right? Yes, we could do with an upgrade on Eddie Nketiah, but if you don't play him, you don't even need to upgrade a player you're never going to play.
I
You
agree
know,
with you.
if Cedric fell down a well tomorrow, right, and no one saw it happen and no one knew where he was and he was missing for weeks, it wouldn't make any difference to our fucking matches at all. You know, like it's just Cedric. It'd be like, I probably wouldn't even go looking for him. I know that's cruel.
Right, Skippy will do that.
Yeah, eventually the kangaroo will find him. No, isn't that how it works? But Eddie Nketiah has played no minutes.
No. And something's obviously happened there because he's fit to the best of my knowledge and he's playing
I'll tell you what happened. Well, I think, I'm not sure it's much more complicated than the fact that Arteta just went, every time I play you, you don't score or do anything. Maybe you should just, you know, but
Maybe
then he didn't sell him in
not.
January. Anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about this more.
Yeah, you're going to have to, your editing's going to be like getting rid of the last hour of this.
I would definitely won't be editing this. And for anybody watching it to this point, you deserve my love and gratitude forever. Thank you. You're all wonderful. And Lee Gunner Speaks Facts just disappeared after he said Lee Gunner told me to wind you guys up.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, just when we started to get along for the first time. Yeah.
Just when he started to seem like a balanced, normal individual. Perhaps that was his malfunction. Anyway, I hope he comes back. I hope, I'll speak to you soon. And for everybody that's watched, thank you so much. And we'll do another one of these next week when we'll have beaten Newcastle by then, won't we?
Hope so.
All right, sure, mate.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Have a good one.
Bye now.